Chapter 765. That consecrator's face was gloomy. He did not expect that he would not be able to get a spot despite suppressing his opponent. What a pity. At this moment there were still 4 spots left. Next, more and more people went up to the arena. However, most of them were at 75% to 70%. After 8 rounds, only 3 people succeeded. Now there was only 1 spot left. It's time to go up. Yixian's eyes lit up as he jumped onto the arena. However, after he landed, another person landed. It was a middle-aged man. Kid, this is not a place for you to come up. Get out. This middle-aged man was very arrogant because he could feel that Yixian's aura was not strong. He estimated that it was not even 60%. How dare he challenge someone at such a level? He was courting death. Everything is first come, first served. Please wait for me to finish my challenge. Yixian smiled faintly and walked forward. What an arrogant kid. Sir, this kid is disrupting the order. I'll help you send him flying. The middle-aged man coldly snorted and directly charged towards Yixian. Facing the sneak attack, Yixian took out his spiritual sword and attacked as fast as lightning. Bang! The sword light hit the middle-aged man's chest and sent him flying. Hiss. Many of the people present sucked in a breath of cold air. They thought that Yixian would be sent flying with a single punch. Unexpectedly, that middle-aged man was a paper tiger and could not withstand a single blow. No, it was not that he could not withstand a single blow, but Yixian's strength was shocking. In the imperial capital, you can't judge a book by its cover. The other princes also have young powerhouses under their command. Some people thought to themselves. This attack left a very deep impression on the surrounding people because if this sword had landed on them, it would have been enough to kill them instantly. The 6th prince, who had not said a word from the beginning, suddenly raised his eyebrows. Even he did not expect Yixian to have such strength. It was really rare. Director Zhua, who is this person? The 6th prince could not help but ask. This. The chief steward of the 6th emperor's mansion glanced at Yixian. He thought for a while and said, it seems that Shi brought him back 3 days ago. He is a talent that can be molded. I wonder if he can get the 10th spot. The 6th prince smiled. There were many opportunities in the Crown Prince trial. Not only did he want people who were both intelligent and courageous, he also wanted people with potential. For example, Yixian was a genius who could challenge people 3 levels above him. If Yixian were to obtain a fortuitous encounter in the Crown Prince trial, then his strength would advance by leaps and bounds, and he could become one of the most capable generals under his command. After the middle-aged man was sent flying by Yixian, his expression turned ugly. He disappeared into the crowd, not daring to say another word. Young man, this is the last spot. You must make good use of it. The chief steward of the 6th emperor's palace said. I will. Yixian nodded. There was only 1 target left on the training field, so Yixian had no other choice. When the last guard saw Yixian take out his weapon and send a middle-aged man of the same level flying, he did not dare to be careless. He also took out a quasi-supreme divine weapon. The last spot is mine. Yixian's eyes flashed and he took the initiative to attack. Although his cultivation level was 3 levels lower, he had various bloodlines in his body. Most importantly, if he burst out at full speed, his opponent would not be able to keep up with his speed. Pa. 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 Yixian's feet alternated rapidly on the training field. His speed was so fast that it shocked everyone present. So fast. This kid's future is limitless. The 6th prince was shocked. At this moment he had already made up his mind. Even if Yixian was defeated, he would give the last spot to Yixian. However, Yixian did not need it. Peng? The battle had only started for 2 seconds when a figure flew out of the arena. The one who was still standing on the arena was Yixian. Yixian victory. Good, the 10th spot has been confirmed. The 6th prince's residence's manager reacted and shouted loudly. Yixian's strength was enough to defeat an opponent 3 levels higher in 2 seconds. Moreover, the opponent was the 6th prince's personal guard. After defeating the opponent, Yixian heaved a sigh of relief. Obtaining a spot to enter the Crown Prince trial was only the first step of his plan. Alright, everyone disperse. 5 of you stay. The 6th prince's manager said. Hundreds of people left the training field helplessly. It was not that they did not want to help the 6th prince, but they did not have the strength. Soon there were less than 10 people left in the training field. In 7 days it will be the Crown Prince trial. I'm sure you all know how important it is. In the next 7 days, if you need anything, feel free to look for me. After the 6th prince's manager finished speaking, he took out a few interspatial rings and handed them to Yixian and the other 4. The interspatial rings contain some information about the Crown Prince trial, as well as the draconic fate of the universe. You should have heard of the draconic fate of the universe. After mastering it, you can use the stored draconic fate to increase your battle strength. Yi Xian took the interspatial rings. Previously, when he killed the Celestial Abundant City's city lord, he did not obtain the method to enhance his draconic fate. However, this draconic fate of the universe was obviously more powerful than the draconic fate of the universe. The Crown Prince trial is divided into 3 sections. The first section is the draconic fate battle. Every prince's 10 subordinates will hold the prince token and enter a secret realm. The final section will be ranked according to the total draconic fate. Yi Xian gave a rough glance. In the first 2 sections of the Crown Prince trial, the princes would not participate in it personally. They would only participate in the final section. In the remaining 7 days, if your cultivation base improves, it will be of great help to the 6th prince. If you need anything, you can write it down for me now. As long as it's reasonable, I will try my best to satisfy you, said the manager of the 6th prince's residence. Qiao Bao and the rest's eyes lit up. They immediately took out a pen and paper and wrote down what they needed for their cultivation. Yi Xian did the same. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now that the second bloodline expansion slot is about to be exchanged, the Heavenly Eye Clan's heaven and earth treasure that they need is not available in the 6th heaven prison. Yi Xian did not waste any more time and started to write down what he needed. Qiao Bao was the first to finish writing and handed it in. Yes, I can get all the things you need, the manager of the 6th prince's residence nodded. The other 3 also demanded an exorbitant price. However, the things they needed were very precious to them, but to the 6th prince, it was just a drop in the ocean. In the end, when Yi Xian handed the list to the manager of the 6th prince's residence, the latter could not help but raise his eyebrows. Chapter 766. Young man, I've only heard of one of the things you wrote. The head steward of the 6th emperor's mansion was a bit surprised. With his experience, he actually only recognized one type. He even started to wonder if Yi Xian had written it randomly. The 6th prince walked over and glanced at it. There are only 2 or 3 of these things in our national treasury. The 6th prince was shocked. He didn't know how Yi Xian knew the names of these things. However, he did have one in his interspatial ring. Although I don't know why you want these things, I think you're very special. This cave spirit fruit is useless to me, so you can have it. In addition, Chief Steward Zhua, give him another 1,000,000 supreme pills. He must seal 60% of the great emperor's will before the Crown Prince trial. The 6th prince generously tossed Yi Xian a sparkling and translucent fruit. The cave spirit fruit was a necessity for the Heavenly Eye clan to open a heavenly eye. This heavenly eye was called the Eye of Revelation. It allowed the host to have a photographic memory and see through the essence of everything. If combined with the devouring system, Yi Xian could copy the opponent's martial arts and cultivate it. Thank you, Your Highness, Yi Xian said gratefully. A duke could earn 100,000 supreme venerable pills a month, and 1,000,000 supreme venerable pills would take 10 months to earn. 1,000,000 supreme pills was enough for a person to reach 70% body seal. However, for Yi Xian he could only reach 60% body seal at most. Alright, you can go back first. I'll get someone to deliver the things to you one by one, the chief steward said. Then Yi Xian and the other 4 left. After they left, only the chief steward and the 6th prince were left in the martial arts arena. Chief Steward Zhuo, what do you think? The 6th prince suddenly asked. The chief steward hesitated for a moment, then said, Qiao Bao's strength is close to the 5 chosen by your highness. However, Yi Xian's talent is quite good. If he gets the inheritance, he might not be weaker than the others. I hope he can make a difference and be a great help to me in the future. However, the other 3 princes' teams are much stronger than mine. The 6th prince sighed helplessly. In fact, he was not confident either. After all, he was the weakest of the 4 princes. After leaving the training field, Yi Xian returned to his own courtyard. Ding! The host has broken through. The current seal of the great emperor's will is at 60%. When Yi Xian stepped into the courtyard, he swallowed the 1,000,000 supreme pills and broke through. I've finally broken through. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. The royal family was indeed powerful. Although the princes had left the palace to develop on their own, they were still not comparable to ordinary people. Just now, when Yi Xian was there, he discovered that the chief steward of the 6th imperial residence was probably not lower than that Qiao Bao. Yi Xian understood that the 6th prince was probably the one who was hiding his strength. He was probably the strongest person present at that time. However, the most important part was yet to come. Ding! Host has successfully assimilated the Heavenly Eye clan bloodline. Ding! Eye of Revelation has been successfully activated. 2 notifications rang out. Yi Xian opened the Eye of Revelation with the cave spirit fruit that the sixth prince had given him. The Eye of Revelation increases the range of vision and allows me to see through all illusions. Most importantly, when combined with the devouring system, I can directly copy the enemy's martial arts. Yi Xian squinted his eyes. If he could defeat him with the enemy's martial arts, it would be a wonderful feeling. He took out a mirror and looked at it. He found that there was no change in his eyes. However, with a thought, the scene in front of him changed. At this moment he had the ability to see through things. He could see through the house and see what was going on in the courtyard. In the courtyard next door, a consecrated was practicing martial arts. Yi Xian stared at him and saw the path of the vital energy in his body. Ding. Copy of the Absolute Void Palm successfully. Do you want to learn it? The system prompted. No. Yi Xian was shocked. As long as he stared at it once, he would be able to directly learn it. This skill was simply too amazing. Of course, he had to look at it completely. Using the Eye of Revelation requires eye power. It seems that the bloodline of the divine tree of life can't recover it quickly. This is a tragedy. Yi Xian was slightly helpless. If he couldn't recover his eye power quickly, it meant that he had to use it carefully. If he overused it, his eyes would be so tired that he couldn't open them. However, he couldn't care less because the bloodline had already been merged. He couldn't exchange for another bloodline. Ding. The host has learned the Heavenly Dragon Blessing. Yi Xian learned the Heavenly Dragon Blessing given by the sixth prince's residence. This martial art could use the luck stored in some items. Previously, when the Tianfeng City Lord was in the Heaven's Prison, he had the luck above his head. However, when he was outside he had to store it in something. For example, the prince's token that one would obtain during the Crown Prince trial. Of course, the royal family could seal the dragon blessing in their body and use it when necessary. Then Yi Xian began to understand the content of the Crown Prince trial. The first 2 stages of the Crown Prince trial are completed by the 10 subordinates. During the trial they are allowed to kill and steal the dragon blessing. Seeing this, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. 7 days passed quickly. During these 7 days, Yi Xian took some time to visit the martial arts pavilion in the sixth prince's residence. He copied all the martial arts in there into the devouring system. This time he couldn't use the firmament splitter, wolf tooth rush, wolf tooth sword and dragon-marked golden armor. Otherwise he would be recognized. The first 3 were fine, but once the dragon-marked golden armor was exposed, he would be in danger. An innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. The dragon-marked golden armor could withstand 20% of the lightning tribulation's power. Those half-supremes coveted it. Unless it was a critical moment he wouldn't reveal it. 7 days later, the sixth prince sent someone to summon Yi Xian. Today they had to go to the royal palace to participate in the Crown Prince trial. At the same time, Yi Xian also saw the 5 people that the sixth prince had selected. These 5 people were not ordinary people. Among the 5 people, there was Chief Steward Zhuo from the sixth prince's residence. The other 4 were Gu Jian, Poison Matriarch, and the sixth prince's personal guard, Xianxia. This was the first group. The second group was led by Chao Bao and Yi Xian's group. So strong. Their auras aren't any weaker than Chief Steward Zhuo's. When Yi Xian saw these 5 people he was also extremely shocked. This was because his cultivation level was truly too lacking compared to these 5 people. When the 5 people saw Yi Xian's group, they only glanced at them. Among them, Gu Jian couldn't help but ask, Chief Steward Zhuo, why is there a 60% physique ceiling expert? Haha, this kid's strength is not bad. He can challenge someone 3 levels higher. Chief Steward Zhuo said with a smile. At the same time he thought that Yi Xian didn't disappoint. He broke through to 60% physique ceiling expert in 7 days. Chapter 767. Oh. Gu Jian glanced at Yi Xian before retracting his gaze. He had seen many geniuses like him, but many of them had died prematurely. Soon the sixth prince arrived. At the same time a golden winged rock landed. Everyone, follow me into the palace. The sixth prince stood on the back of the golden winged rock and said to the 10 people below. Yi Xian and the others flew up. The Crown Prince trial was finally about to begin. The sixth prince's residence was near the imperial city, so the golden winged rock arrived quickly. When they arrived there were already more than 100 people below. In addition, there was a group of officials from the Sunflame's sacred dynasty on the stairs, but the emperor was nowhere to be seen. There are so many experts. A man beside Yi Xian couldn't help but exclaim. With so many experts gathered together, the aura was extremely terrifying. At this moment Yi Xian's heart couldn't help but beat wildly. These experts were actually not too bad. After all, there were true supreme being experts in the palace. Oh, the sixth prince is here. When the sixth prince landed with Yi Xian and the others, a young man in golden clothes walked over. He was the fourth prince. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that there were more than 3,000 beauties in the harem of the Sunflame sacred dynasty. Hence, it wasn't difficult to have more than 10 princes. Although the fourth prince was the sixth prince's brother, their mothers were not the same person. Fourth brother. The sixth prince hurriedly greeted. The fourth prince glanced at the 10 people behind the sixth prince and whispered, "Sixth brother, these people don't seem to be much. Why don't you lend me a hand?" Chief Steward Zhu's group of 6 was alright, but Yi Xian's group of 4 wasn't enough. This was because the weakest person in the fourth prince's group was at physique seal 80%. "Fourth brother, you really know how to joke," the sixth prince said with a smile. In other words, he was telling the sixth prince to stop dreaming. The eldest prince, the fourth prince, the sixth prince, and the seventh prince were the most likely to become the crown prince. Among them, the first prince was the most mysterious. The fourth prince and the seventh prince had a lot of conflicts in private. The sixth prince remained neutral, but that didn't mean that he wouldn't compete. Haha, fourth brother, the crown prince trial isn't just about strength, luck is also very important. A hearty laugh came from not far away. Everyone turned around and saw another young man walking over. "Seventh brother, your fourth brother's luck is pretty good," the fourth prince said with a smile, but his eyes flashed a few times. That was because many of the experts under his command had been secretly dealt with by the seventh prince. At this moment Yi Xian's gaze also fell on the seventh prince. The grandfather of the heavenly plentiful city lord Xianxia was the chief steward of the seventh emperor's residence. The memory of how Yi Xian was beaten to a pulp was still fresh in his mind. This grudge must be avenged. As expected, Yi Xian saw Xianxia through the seventh prince's silhouette, causing his heart to tremble. Although he had changed his voice because he wore the dragon-patterned golden armor, he was still afraid that the other party would recognize him. The 3 princes seemed to be chatting on the surface, but in fact, there was a surging undercurrent. They were all hiding daggers in their smiles. The fourth prince and the seventh prince were mocking each other, while the sixth prince was watching from the side with a smile. There were many princes around, but they weren't very powerful. Some of them were just here to join in the fun and steal some draconic luck, while others wanted to join in. If they were lucky, it wouldn't be a problem for them to become the crown prince. However, the mysterious first prince didn't appear. Not long after, everyone arrived one after another. There were a total of 17 princes and all of them were present. 17 princes meant that there were a total of 170 people. However, it was difficult for a prince to recruit an 80% physique seal expert, so they could only rely on their luck and see if they could have a fortuitous encounter in the secret realm. Everyone waited for a while, then a person flew into the sky. Silence. A voice that sounded like a duck's throat entered everyone's ears, and everyone fell silent. Its father's favorite, Eunuch Wu. The princes recognized him at a glance. Eunuch Wu was the one who took care of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor when he was young. Many princes were not as important as Eunuch Wu in the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor's heart. "Princes, please keep your prince seals and prince badges." Eunuch Wu waved his hand, and 17 square prince seals and interspatial rings slowly flew into the prince's hands. The sixth prince caught the prince seal and glanced at it. There was a 6 written on it. Then he sank his consciousness into the interspatial ring, took out 10 prince badges, and distributed them to the 10 princes of Yi Xian. Each prince seal is connected to the 10 prince badges. At this time, the 10 prince badges don't have any draconic luck, and the prince seal's draconic luck is equivalent to the sum of the 10 prince badges. Drip your blood to bind it to you immediately. If the prince badges are destroyed in the secret realm, you will be teleported out immediately. At that time, there will be experts who will treat your injuries. Eunuch Wu said. Everyone present understood this. The purpose of the Crown Prince trial was to obtain draconic luck and obtain a ranking in the end. Immediately, everyone bound their prince badges to them. Then they realized that they couldn't keep their prince badges in their interspatial rings. They could only carry them with them. In the first stage of the Crown Prince trial, the Battle of Draconic Luck, there will be a lot of inheritances and draconic luck. You can also snatch the prince badges of others. After Eunuch Wu finished speaking, he stepped aside. The door of the palace behind him slowly opened. The entrance to the secret realm appeared. This is the secret realm of the Sunflame Imperial family. There are many inheritances and opportunities inside. Once you enter, you will be teleported to various places. You must be careful. When necessary, you can use your draconic luck, the sixth prince said softly. The 10 princes of Yixian nodded silently. All the princes gave out their respective tasks. At this time, Eunuch Wu added, the battle of draconic luck this time will be semi-closed. Only the scene of the inheritance land will be seen. Also, no killing is allowed. Those who kill on purpose will be eliminated and their draconic luck will be cleared. Although only the scene of the inheritance land would be seen, this didn't mean anything. Since Eunuch Wu said that killing was not allowed, the imperial family must have a way to see what was happening inside the secret realm. Yixian narrowed his eyes. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to show his skills in this stage. However, he caught a key point in Eunuch Wu's words. Those who killed on purpose would be eliminated. However, it was inevitable that there would be casualties in a battle between two people. Hence, the rule should be that torture was not allowed. The battle of draconic luck will last for 3 days. After 3 days, all of you will be teleported out. Alright, the first prince's team can enter now. Eunuch Wu suddenly turned his head and looked at the 11 people in the corner. The first prince was very cold. He was probably around 35 years old. He stood there and watched as his team of 10 entered the secret realm. Next was the second prince's team, followed by the third prince's team. Chapter 768. Remember, it's important to stay alive. The sixth prince reminded Yixian and the others when they entered the secret realm. Although they were not allowed to kill, there might be dangers in the land of inheritance. Moreover, if they were seriously injured, their combat power would be greatly reduced. Yixian and the others entered the secret realm with all their might. In the next moment, Yixian found that the people who entered the secret realm in front of him had disappeared, and he appeared in a forest. Beside him was a stone tablet with 17 rankings on it. They were the 17 princes who were ranked according to order. At this moment, Yixian tried to control his chi to fly. Sure enough, as he'd expected, he couldn't use chi to fly, and he couldn't shrink the ground into an inch. However, this secret realm was still his home ground. Then he used the Eye of Revelation to scan the surroundings. Although there were a lot of trees around, the Eye of Revelation could see through them directly. Coincidentally, Yixian saw a person. However, Yixian saw the environment in his body instead of his face, so Yixian did not know who this person was. He doesn't look strong. Yixian narrowed his eyes and directly flew over. Although the battle of dragon luck had just begun, it was better for him to reduce the number of people. The middle-aged man who was targeted did not notice Yixian and was about to move in a random direction, hoping to find an inheritance. However, at this moment, swoosh, the middle-aged man trembled when he heard the sound of something breaking through the air. He turned around and saw a cold light coming toward him. Bang! The middle-aged man blocked with his long sword, but the powerful impact directly sent him flying. Then, a black shadow attacked and directly cut off his left arm. The interspatial ring instantly fell into the black shadow's hand. What? The middle-aged man just realized that the black shadow had crushed the prince's token. In the next moment, he and his severed arm were directly teleported out of the secret realm. Outside the secret realm, there were other princes' teams entering the secret realm one by one. However, at this moment, a person suddenly teleported out, which gave them a shock. What? Someone was teleported out so quickly? Everyone was shocked. Not all of the 17 princes had entered, but someone had already been eliminated. The speed was too fast. At this time, the fifth prince rushed over and asked in shock, Wu Tongfang, who did this? The middle-aged man resisted the pain and shook his head. I didn't see clearly. He was very fast, but he was only at 60% body seal. How was it possible to send a person with 70% body seal out of the mystic realm in an instant? When the sixth prince heard this, his expression also changed. Wasn't Yixian and his team at physique seal 60%? Among all the princes present, he was probably the only one who had reached 60% body seal. Therefore, the sixth prince guessed that the person who had sent this middle-aged man out was Yixian. Good boy, swift and decisive, one less opponent. The sixth prince's face was full of smiles. However, the seventh prince and the fourth prince were also shocked. This was because they also knew that the sixth prince had a 60% body seal kit in his team. I thought the sixth prince was crazy, but it turns out that he was hiding his strength. The fourth prince thought to himself. In the secret realm. After Yixian crushed the other party's prince's token, he couldn't help but reveal a smile. He didn't expect to gain so much from the battle of draconic luck. There were quite a lot of things in this ring. The Eye of Revelation is really good. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to find him. Yixian was very satisfied. He didn't know if he would be able to find the necessary items to open the Eye of Heaven in this secret realm. He randomly chose a direction and moved forward. From time to time, he would scan the surroundings with the Eye of Revelation to see if there were any places of inheritance. Roar. A few minutes after Xian advanced, a loud roar suddenly entered his ears. He immediately used his Eye of Insight to scan the area and discovered a huge figure. It's not a human. It seems to be a quasi-supreme saint beast. Xian squinted his eyes. The corpse of a quasi-supreme saint beast was quite precious. Hence he immediately rushed over. When he arrived, he realized that the quasi-supreme saint beast was a golden bear. With Xian's current realm, he wouldn't be afraid even if he faced an 80% body seal expert, let alone a quasi-supreme saint beast. He held the spiritual rhino sword in his hand and slashed out, directly killing this quasi-supreme sacred beast. However, when he was about to devour the corpse, he realized that there was a wave of energy spreading out from the corpse. This is draconic luck? Xian's eyes suddenly narrowed. He quickly took out the prince token. As expected, the strange energy was draconic luck. Xian used the prince token to absorb all the draconic luck. So, killing monsters also gives me draconic luck. Xian was very satisfied. After all, he had learned the draconic luck and could use the draconic luck to increase his combat strength. When Xian finished absorbing the draconic luck, the ranking of the 17 princes changed. The 6th prince was currently in first place. At this time, outside the secret realm, the 17 princes had already entered a palace. Together with them were the civil and military officials of the Sunflame's sacred dynasty. The 6th prince's subordinate is the first to break the ranking. He's in first place. Impressive, impressive. I reckon that one of his subordinates must have killed a quasi-supreme holy beast. Everyone's perception is lowered in the secret realm. Moreover, the secret realm is terrifyingly big. It's not easy to kill a quasi-supreme saint beast. He's only in first place temporarily. We still have to see how he performs later. Indeed, the ranking at the beginning was useless. One might not be able to laugh all the way to the end. At this time, the 17 princes' subordinates had all entered the secret realm. There were a total of 170 people. No, there were only 169 people left. One of them was unlucky. Xian teleported near him. Then Xian kicked him out of the secret realm. In the secret realm, Xian had been running for more than 10 minutes. Along the way he didn't encounter anything special. However, at the 13th minute after he entered the secret realm, it's so hot. Xian's footsteps suddenly stopped. He felt the problem around him suddenly increase. He immediately used his Eye of Insight and discovered that there was something strange in front of him. My perception is much weaker in this secret realm. Fortunately, I have the Eye of Revelation. Xian sighed in his heart. At the same time, he guessed that the strange thing in front of him might be a land of inheritance. He quickly rushed over. When he arrived, he found that the strange thing was the so-called Dragon Luck Pillar. The Dragon Luck Pillar contained a large amount of draconic luck. However, what caught Xian's attention wasn't the Dragon Luck Pillar, but the thing in the large pool beside it. Chapter 769. Xian used the Eye of Insight to look again and discovered that there was a universe ring at the bottom of the blazing magma. He didn't care too much and took out the Prince token to absorb the draconic luck on the Dragon Luck Pillar. Then he walked to the side of the boiling pool and put his hand in. Hot. That was Xian's first reaction. When he pulled his hand out, he found that his skin was red. If he soaked in the lava for a while longer, his skin and flesh would melt. Perhaps not even his bones would be left. Such a high temperature. My realm is not high enough, so I'm afraid I can't withstand it. If it's the dragon-patterned golden armor, I can, Xian thought to himself. However, this was the secret realm of the Sunflame sacred dynasty. If the dragon-patterned golden armor appeared, he would be in trouble if someone saw it. Therefore, to be safe, Xian decided to give up. However, he only gave up half of it. There might be other people around. I'll let them come and take it while I reap the benefits. Xian thought to himself. Then he scanned the surroundings with his Eye of Revelation. Indeed, there was no one around, but he could make some noise. Boom, boom, boom. Xian began to attack the ground frantically. The bigger the commotion, the farther the sound would spread. As long as someone was near, they would be able to find him by following the temperature. After a while, Xian hid in a dark corner and concealed his aura, waiting for someone to find him. Sure enough, as he expected, there was already a figure flying over in his line of sight. He's not fast. I think he's at most 75% of the body seal. Xian watched as the figure flew to the side of the scorching pool. After seeing that the draconic luck pillar had been taken away, he guessed that there had been a great battle here. He was still cautious and checked the surroundings. However, the perception in the secret realm was probably only 1/5 of the perception outside. Moreover, Yi Xian had concealed his aura, so he couldn't find Yi Xian. He walked to the side of the pool, probed it and found that he could withstand it. He immediately jumped into the pool and retrieved the interspatial ring at the bottom of the pool. "You took it out?" Yi Xian, who was using the Eye of Revelation to check the situation, immediately charged out. Swish! A cold light flashed, followed by a crisp sound. The expert with 75% body seal reacted quickly and blocked the attack with his longsword. However, Yi Xian had already circled around the forest and swept out. Absolute annihilation. Yi Xian slashed out again. Although the power of this move wasn't as strong as Firmament Splitter, it was still better to use it sparingly. After all, he had used this move to kill the Heavenly Abundant City Lord. The expert with 75% of his body was able to block the sword, but he was unable to block the sword and had one of his arms cut off. When the arm that held the sword flew up, Yi Xian had already arrived in front of him. Hiss! Another crisp sound rang out. His opponent's wrist was cut off, and his universe ring fell into Yi Xian's hand. The expert was in despair. His right arm was cut off and his left wrist was also cut off. What else could he use to fight? By the time he reacted, Yi Xian had already torn his clothes and took out the prince token that was hidden in his chest. "Thank you for your dragon luck. You can leave now." Yi Xian absorbed a small amount of dragon luck from the prince token and crushed it. In the next moment, the expert turned into a ray of white light and disappeared in front of Yi Xian. He was teleported out of the secret realm. Yi Xian remembered that this person was one of the 13th prince's subordinates. It was a pity that he ran into him. Although there isn't much dragon luck, it's better than nothing. Let me see what's in these two interspatial rings. Yi Xian muttered to himself. He first looked at the opponent's interspatial ring, but there wasn't much in it. However, the interspatial ring that the opponent took out from the scorching pool contained a lot of good stuff. The inheritance of the Blazing Howl sect from 100 years ago. Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. Most of the things in the interspatial ring were martial arts techniques. There were also a few rare treasures, all of which were of the fire attribute. He didn't hold back and directly copied the martial arts techniques into the devouring system. As for the rare treasures, he devoured them all. Yi Xian used a special devouring system for some of the items because many of them could strengthen one's physique. Half-step supreme being was to seal one's body with the great emperor's will to forcefully strengthen one's physique. However, this didn't count as one's physique. In the future, after sealing one's physique to 100%, one would have to undergo the supremacy tribulation. Everyone's emperor's will was sealed to the same degree. If one wanted to become a supreme being, one had to rely on one's physique and other abilities. It's a pity that I gained more experience every time I leveled up. I couldn't break through. Yi Xian sighed and shook his head, then left the place. His luck was pretty good. After eliminating both of them, he even obtained an inheritance and a large amount of dragon luck. At the same time, he also understood that the Blazing Howl sect's inheritance was an inferior inheritance. There were also middle and superior inheritances. Even princes would be tempted by superior inheritances. Every inheritance is dangerous. I can't even obtain an inferior inheritance. I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Yi Xian felt a little helpless. He was only at 60% physique ceiling, while the others were at 70% physique ceiling. Although his combat strength was strong, his vital energy had always been his weakness. Moreover, he couldn't use the dragon pattern golden armor casually here. Therefore, if he found an inheritance land, he would have to obtain dragon luck first. However, with his strength he could fight against an 80% physique ceiling expert. He could definitely guard the inheritance land. He continued to wander in the forest. With the Eye of Revelation, his insight was probably unmatched. After more than half an hour, he encountered another inheritance land. This time there were a few strange trees guarding the dragon luck pillar. Demon trees? Yi Xian's eyes flashed. Even without the Eye of Revelation, he could see that these trees were extraordinary. After all, the internal environment of these trees was different from ordinary trees. Moreover, their branches were constantly twisting, which seemed very dangerous. There's an interspatial ring beside the dragon luck pillar. Yi Xian's eyes focused on the interspatial ring beside the dragon luck pillar. At this moment he checked the surroundings and didn't find anyone else, so he suddenly attacked. Absolute annihilation. Rays of cold light pierced through the air. Yi Xian directly attacked the demon trees through countless trees. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to discover the demon trees at all. After all, they didn't have the ability to see through things, let alone attack through so many trees. Rip. 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 Yi Xian's sword directly cut through hundreds of trees and hit a demon tree. The demon tree was severely injured, but it didn't notice Yi Xian. It could only silently take the attack. Chapter 770. Universal Annihilation. Slashes flew through the air and killed a devil tree in just a few rounds. In less than half a minute, all the devil trees were dead. Then Yi Xian quickly flew over and absorbed the draconic luck on the dragon luck pillar. He then took the interspatial ring. The inheritance of the Zhangxin sect from 200 years ago. Yi Xian's eyes lit up because there were a lot of treasures in the interspatial ring. I'm so close to breaking through. He sensed that he only needed one more inheritance to break through to 65% of the physique seal realm. At that time, his combat power would be able to squeeze into the top tier among the 100 people. Of course, others could also suddenly break through after obtaining the inheritance. Although I only obtained 2 low-grade inheritances, I'll be able to break through after obtaining one more. It's not too bad. Yi Xian left his original spot. He had a huge advantage with the Eye of Revelation, so he had to make the best use of his time. Half an hour later he found another inheritance, but this time, someone else seemed to have gotten it before him. Rumble. A series of loud noises came from the front. Yi Xian scanned with the Eye of Revelation and found 2 people fighting. They're not weak. They're probably at 80% of the Great Emperor Seal realm. Yi Xian squinted his eyes. He was wondering if he should go over and interfere. I'll hide first. I'll go out when they're almost done fighting. Yi Xian planned in his heart. Yi Xian liked to be the fisherman when the sandpiper and the clam fought. Through the Eye of Revelation, Yi Xian could see that the 2 people were fighting at the entrance of the cave. There was also a dragon luck pillar outside the cave. It was obviously the place of inheritance. Another advantage of the Eye of Revelation was that it could see through ordinary things and see the inside of the 2 people. However, it couldn't see through the interspatial ring. Therefore, his attention was always on the extra interspatial ring. Oh, the one with the interspatial ring seems to be stronger. Yi Xian observed as he approached. In any case, the perception in the secret realm was lower, so the other party would not be able to detect him. When Yi Xian was only 3,000 meters away from them, one of them had his prince's medallion shattered. Then he turned into a beam of white light and was sent out of the secret realm. When Yi Xian saw the other person disappear in an instant, he understood that it was time to make a move. Absolute annihilation. A slash tore through the air. The person who had just obtained the universe ring had just relaxed when he was frightened by this sneak attack. Clang. He hurriedly used his weapon to block it, but was knocked into the stone wall by the impact. At the same time, Yi Xian rushed out of the forest and attacked madly. At the same time, Yi Xian saw his face clearly. He was actually one of the 7th prince's subordinates. Brat, you're courting death. The gray-robed elder shouted angrily. He put away the interspatial ring and started to fight back. Haha, members of the 7th prince's faction, get out. Yi Xian laughed loudly in his heart. Xiaoyuni, who had beaten him up like a dog in the water, was a member of the 7th prince's faction. Although this elder was not Xiaoyuni, Yi Xian treated him as Xiaoyuni and beat him up. However, it was not easy to challenge someone 4 levels higher. Bam, bam, bam. The 2 sword chis began to clash. In terms of combat strength, Yi Xian was not afraid at all. Brat, I recognize you. You're a member of the 6th prince's faction. The gray-robed elder recognized Yi Xian. And then? Yi Xian squinted his eyes. Nothing. I just want to invite you out of the secret realm. The gray-robed elder sneered. Then let's see who invites who out. Yi Xian's eyes widened. From before until now, he'd already exchanged more than 10 blows with his opponent. If that was the case, then it would be very difficult for him to defeat his opponent. I don't care so much. Dragon blessing the universe. He made up his mind. At this moment, strength was more important. Not many people would recognize these 2 martial arts techniques. Wolf Tooth Rush. A giant wolf head rushed towards the gray-robed elder. The gray-robed elder slashed with his sword but was unable to disperse it. As a result, he was bitten by the giant wolf head. After the wolf tooth rush, it was the powerful firmament splitter. Swish. Yi Xian's sudden burst of strength caught his opponent off guard. Half of the gray-robed elder's shoulder was cut off and blood splattered everywhere. Damn it. The gray-robed elder cursed angrily as he watched the other giant wolf head bite him. The gray-robed elder was immediately immobilized by the 2 giant wolf heads with sharp teeth. Absolute void palm. Yi Xian quickly rushed over. His palm passed through the giant wolf heads and landed on the gray-robed elder. In the next moment, the gray-robed elder was sent flying. At the same time, Yi Xian seized the Qiankuan inheritance ring and the prince's token. Oh no! The gray-robed elder's expression changed. It was fine if the Qiankuan ring was taken away, but if the prince's token was taken away it would be over. Although he had only encountered the first inheritance land and did not obtain much dragon luck, he was afraid that he would be eliminated if the prince's token fell into Yi Xian's hands. Gotcha. After a crisp sound, the gray-robed elder's prince's token was crushed by Yi Xian. He then turned into a ray of white light and flew out of the secret realm. Phew. Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, his opponent did not use the dragon blessing in time. Otherwise he would have wasted a lot of dragon luck. It's still a low-grade inheritance, but it's not bad. Yi Xian's eyes lit up as he heard a notification in his mind. Breakthrough. Now his body sealing degree had reached 65%. He began to check the inheritance ring and was pleasantly surprised. It's all ores. It seems to be a sect that specializes in forging. Not bad, not bad. It seems that the 3,000 wolf-tooth cavalry can be upgraded. Yi Xian's lips curled up slightly. He had the blueprint to upgrade the 3,000 wolf-tooth cavalry. As long as he had the materials, he could use the devouring system to upgrade them. Ding. Wolf-tooth cavalry upgrade successful. Ding. Deputy long saber upgrade successful. Yi Xian used the forging materials to upgrade the 3,000 wolf-tooth cavalry and Deputy long saber. Deputy long saber's strength has reached 60% of the Emperor's will and 40% of the 3,000 wolf-tooth cavalry. Yi Xian was quite satisfied with this result. After all, this was only a low-grade inheritance. If he could obtain a mid-grade inheritance or even a high-grade inheritance, he would be able to upgrade even more. I've only been here for 2 hours and I've already obtained 3 low-grade inheritances dragon luck. The others probably only obtained 1 at most, right? Yi Xian's confidence suddenly skyrocketed. Although his eye power could not be recovered quickly, the Eye of Revelation did not consume much of his eye power. It would not be a problem to use it again after a period of time. He began to search for more inheritances. He had obtained 3 low-grade inheritances in 2 hours, but the battle of dragon luck would last for 3 days. Perhaps he would find a high-grade inheritance. An hour later. Boom. Chapter 771. They're quite far away. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and followed the sound. Soon he saw 3 figures fighting. Then he realized that one of the figures was familiar. It seemed to be Qiao Bao, the mad swordsman. The mad swordsman Qiao Bao had 80% Emperor's will sealed. Like Yi Xian, he was a subordinate of the 6th prince. Yi Xian naturally had to help his teammate when he was in trouble. Yi Xian immediately charged over. Of the 2 attacking Qiao Bao, one was 80% Emperor's will sealed, while the other was 75%. If it was only one person, Qiao Bao could handle it. However, there were 2 of them, which was a little difficult. I have no choice. Draconic Fortune. Qiao Bao, who was holding a broadsword, directly used his trump card. The draconic luck in the prince token in his arms was immediately activated. In an instant, Qiao Bao's strength skyrocketed, and his attacks were very fierce. We'll use it too. The warrior with 80% Emperor's will sealed shouted. Just now, they were evenly matched with Qiao Bao without the draconic luck. Now that they used the draconic luck, they were still in a stalemate. Now it was time to see who had more draconic luck. However, what they did not expect was that a figure suddenly appeared from the side. Wolf Fang charge. Yi Xian used his trump card. The giant wolf head directly bit the warrior with 75% Emperor's will sealed. Then he used an extremely powerful firmament splitter. In order to make his opponent unable to block it, Yi Xian also added draconic luck, which increased his attack power to another level. Swish. The warrior's arm was instantly chopped off. In this situation it was difficult to get the prince token, so Yi Xian did not care too much and directly threw a punch. Gotcha. The punch landed on the opponent's prince token. The token shattered, and the opponent was instantly eliminated. Although the prince token shattered, the draconic luck inside would not be deducted. After the draconic luck battle they could still get a new prince token, but there was no draconic luck inside. Yi Xian did not care about this bit of dragon luck. After sending the other party out of the mystic realm, Yi Xian obtained the other party's yin and yang ring. The other party had also obtained a low-grade legacy, so Yi Xian had benefited from it. It's you? When Qiao Bao saw Yi Xian, his eyes couldn't help but emit a bright light. Yi Xian was on the same side as him. This person seems to be a subordinate of the 4th prince. Yi Xian recognized him, as did the person he had just sent out. They were both subordinates of the fourth prince. However, none of this mattered anymore. "Brat, let's send him out together," Qiao Bao the Wild Blade shouted. "All right." Yi Xian immediately agreed. However, his opponent reacted very quickly. When Yi Xian rushed towards him, he actually punched himself in the chest, shattering the prince's token. The next moment he was sent out of the mystic realm. He had only lost the qualification to enter the first round by shattering the prince's token, but his dragon luck was still there. If he was captured by Yi Xian, his dragon luck would be taken away. "Humph, you ran fast enough." Yi Xian snorted. "Brat, thank you so much." Qiao Bao cupped his fists and thanked him. "What about the legacy's Yin and Yang ring?" Yi Xian asked. "When I came here, the legacy was already gone. Those two thought I was the one who took it, so they surrounded me." Qiao Bao shook his head. Yi Xian frowned slightly. He scanned Qiao Bao with his eye of revelation. Indeed, Qiao Bao only had one Yin and Yang ring. "Since that's the case, I'll take my leave first." Yi Xian cupped his fists at Qiao Bao and left immediately. Qiao Bao originally wanted to team up with Yi Xian, but he decided against it. After all, there were many legacies here. Although it would be safer to travel together, they would have to share half of the meat with each other. It was better to travel alone. The size of the mystic realm also exceeded Yi Xian's expectations. He had been moving in one direction, but after running for a few hours he still could not see the end. It was still a forest. Yi Xian was a little helpless. However, he had only been in the mystic realm for less than half a day. Even if he was helpless, he could only continue. As he walked, the sky gradually darkened. The forest at night was filled with the constant chirping of insects. Those dangerous quasi-supreme sacred beasts had also come out to look for food. However, with his eye of revelation, Yi Xian could instantly spot these dangers. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, a few slashes suddenly rose into the sky, illuminating the surroundings. Yi Xian stopped in his tracks and frowned. This seemed to be a signal. Of course, it could also be deliberately sent by someone to lure people over so that they could snatch the draconic luck and universe rings. With my current strength, I can squeeze into the front line. With the eye of revelation, I can find whoever is hiding. Yi Xian decided to take a look. Night was more suitable for him, who had the shadow leopard bloodline, to conceal himself. His advantage was much greater than during the day. However, when he approached, he realized that it was not what he expected. There were more than 10 people gathered beside a draconic luck pillar. They were not fighting and seemed to be waiting for someone. Could it be that they encountered a middle-grade inheritance and felt that they did not have enough manpower? Yi Xian guessed in his heart. Otherwise, how could there be so many people gathered here? One had to know that when they entered, they were scattered by the teleportation array. Therefore, there must be many people from different camps. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. They were still sending signals upwards, trying to attract people over. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly looked and found a familiar figure among these people. Before entering, Yi Xian had memorized the internal environment of the 9 people on his side. Therefore, he could recognize her. It seems to be the Poison Witch. Yi Xian guessed in his heart. The Poison Witch was an expert recruited by the 6th prince. She was skilled in using poison and had already sealed 80% of her body. However, if not for the 6th prince's reminder, the others would have thought that she was an ordinary martial artist. It seems that they have indeed encountered a middle-grade inheritance. Now, Yi Xian could be sure that they were gathering because they could not find a middle-grade inheritance. At that moment he walked out of the room. "Oh, another person is here," a martial artist said. Yi Xian walked out of the forest and glanced over. "Young man, come here." The Poison Witch's eyes lit up as she shouted at Yi Xian. Although Yi Xian did not trust the others, he could only trust the Poison Witch in this mystic realm. After all, they belonged to the same camp. Yi Xian quickly walked over and asked, "Is this a middle-grade inheritance?" "I'm not very sure." Previously, a martial artist with 75% of his body sealed entered, but he died. The Poison Witch shook her head. "He died?" Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. "He died. He was struck to death by the strange black shadow in this poison cave. Although the wound was not fatal, he was poisoned to death," the Poison Witch said. Poison Cave. Chapter 772. Compared to the others, Yi Xian was more resistant to poison, so he had a higher chance of survival. He looked around and found that the people around him were around 70% and 75% physique sealing realm. Besides the poison matriarch, there were 2 other 80% physique sealing realm experts. Including Yi Xian, there were a total of 13 people. The people around saw that Yi Xian was only at 65% physique sealing realm, so they did not pay much attention to him. However, the mystic realm was so big that it was not bad to be able to gather 10 people. Everyone, should we continue to wait or go in together? A middle-aged man with long hair asked. He was also at 80% physique sealing realm, the same realm as the poison matriarch. Forget it. Let's go in together. It's not easy to gather so many people. Let's go in. Everyone prepare your prince tokens. If there's any danger, just crush them. There are experts outside who can heal you. I think I should back out. I'll look for other inheritances. Someone decided to give up. After all, there were still more than 2 days left. There was no need to stay in this middle-grade land of inheritance. However, the moment he turned around, someone near him suddenly attacked, severely injured him, and took away his interspatial ring. The severely injured person pointed at the other person in shock. However, in the next moment his prince token was crushed and he was teleported out. This scene was witnessed by everyone else, but no one made a sound. Kid, remember to be careful when you enter, the poison matriarch reminded him softly. Yi Xian nodded silently. The poison matriarch looked dangerous, but she was in the same camp as him. Moreover, the scene in the land of inheritance would be projected, so the poison matriarch would definitely not attack him. Otherwise, the sixth prince would definitely not let him off. There are only 12 people left. I don't think they want to stay together. Let's draw lots to enter. The middle-aged man with long hair suggested. Okay, let's draw lots according to camp. There were a total of 10 camps here. Besides Yi Xian and the poison matriarch, there were also 2 people in a group. The other 8 people were acting alone. After the drawing of lots, Yi Xian and the poison matriarch were the 5th batch to enter. Each batch was separated by half a minute. Damn it. The warrior who got first place cursed in his heart. He knew that if he did not enter, he would be eliminated instantly. He gathered his courage and walked in. The second batch would enter 30 seconds after him. Yi Xian and the poison, which were the 5th batch. That was pretty good. At this moment, the 2 of them walked to the side and whispered to each other. Kid, I heard that when you were at 55% body seal, you defeated a 70% body seal. Now that you are at 65% body seal, can you deal with an 80% body seal? Poison matriarch whispered. Senior, you're thinking of? Yi Xian suddenly raised his eyebrows and his eyes lit up. Apart from me, there are 2 other 8th grade physique sealers. One is 3rd and the other is 8th. When the time comes, the 2 of us can work together and clear out everyone behind us, Poison Witch said. Sure. Yi Xian nodded. They were the 5th batch to enter, and there were still quite a few people behind them. They could very well give up on this middle-grade land of inheritance and plunder the dragon luck and treasures of others. Rumble. There was quite a commotion coming from the poison cave. It seemed like someone was fighting. That black shadow should be a poison wind mantis. It is extremely fast. When the time comes, I will set up a poison array. You be careful. Poison Witch said softly. Yi Xian nodded to show that he understood. Soon it was their turn. Because the others did not know that Poison Witch was proficient in using poison, they only treated her as an ordinary warrior and did not pay much attention to her. Yi Xian and Poison Witch entered the poison cave. Their resistance to poison was the strongest among everyone present, so they were the safest. They carefully entered the cave for more than 10 seconds, then chose a spot to set up a poison array. You be careful. I will set up a poison array. Everyone who enters will be poisoned. Poison Witch said as she took out a large pile of items and began to set up the array. Yi Xian was on guard and used his Eye of Revelation to scan the surroundings. In 10 seconds, Poison Witch could easily set up several poison arrays. It was not a problem to deal with the people behind them. Whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, a gust of wind entered Yi Xian's ears, causing his body to tremble. It's coming? Yi Xian reminded. His eyes widened as he saw a black shadow rushing towards him. Wolf Fang charge. He immediately stabbed with his sword. A giant wolf head rushed out and bit the black shadow. As expected, it was a black mantis about 1.5 meters tall. Its entire body contained a large amount of poison. Unfortunately, this poison had no effect on Yi Xian's true qi. Firmament Splitter. Yi Xian directly slashed with his sword and killed the poison wind mantis. This poison cave was very dark, and the poison wind mantis liked to hide in dark corners and wait for its prey to enter. When the time came, it could directly launch a sneak attack and poison its prey. Unfortunately, Yi Xian had the Eye of Revelation and was not weak. Thus, this poison wind mantis was not a threat to him. The quasi-supreme sacred beasts in the secret realm also had dragon luck. Yi Xian collected the poison wind mantis's corpse and dragon luck after it died and continued to protect Poison Witch. Kid, you are not bad. If the two of us work together, we might be able to obtain the inheritance of this poison cave. Poison Witch said as she set up the array. She was originally a poison user, and this middle-tier land of inheritance was related to poison. Thus, it had a huge appeal to her. Yi Xian actually had the same idea. However, it was better to eliminate the remaining people first. The 3 poison arrays have been set up. All of them are non-lethal poison arrays. Except for that person with 80% body seal, no one can last more than 3 seconds in here. Poison Witch said. Yi Xian scanned the area with his eye of revelation. Although he could not see anything on the surface, there were dangers on the ground, walls, ceiling, and even the air was the same. Kid, this bottle of pills is specially made by me. Put one in your mouth in case you need it. Poison Witch threw a bottle of antidote pills to Yi Xian. Although they were on the same side, Yi Xian still took out a pill to test it. After confirming that it was indeed an antidote pill, he followed her instructions and put one in his mouth. If he was accidentally poisoned, he would immediately swallow it. 30 seconds had passed. That meant that the 6th batch of people should be coming in now. Drip. Poison Witch and Yi Xian held their breaths and listened attentively. Some water droplets fell from the ceiling, but the sound could not cover the 6th person's footsteps. He's entered the array. Poison Witch said softly. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. If it's the 6th person, he shouldn't be able to withstand my poison array. Kid, go and take his things. Poison Witch said again after 3 seconds. In fact, Yi Xian did not hear any footsteps. Although he had the eye of revelation, he could not see through the stone wall. All right. Yi Xian nodded and quietly went over. As expected, there was a person lying in the middle of the poison array. He could not move and his eyes were fixed on him. Chapter 773. Tisk Tsk. Get out. Yi Xian took the man's interspatial ring and prince's medallion. After putting them away, he crushed the medallion. The unlucky man turned into a ray of white light and disappeared from Yi Xian's sight. Before they entered, Yi Xian had discussed with Poison Witch. They would each take the interspatial ring and draconic luck. This time it was Yi Xian and next time it would be Poison Witch. After another 30 seconds, the 7th batch of people came in. Just like the previous batch, he was paralyzed on the ground by the 3 great poison arrays. He was like a corpse. This time, Poison Witch dashed over and took his interspatial ring and prince's medallion. They were the 6th batch to enter. 5 people had entered before them, including an 8th degree physique seal expert. In other words, there were 5 more people behind them. One of them was a 2-man team, and the other was an 8th degree physique seal expert. The 7th and 8th batches had been dealt with by them. Next up would be the 2 people from the 9th batch. 275% physique seal experts still can't resist my poison arrays. Poison Witch thought to herself. 30 seconds later, they heard footsteps again. This time there were 2 people. It's poisonous. Suddenly, a low shout came from the cave, but in the next moment, the 2 of them fell down. Yi Xian and Poison Witch weren't nervous. It didn't matter if the people outside heard them. Of course, the poison cave was poisonous. Now that the 2 teams had been eliminated, the last person would be the 8th degree physique seal expert. The last person is the 4th prince's subordinate. I can't tell how strong he is, but he might be hiding his strength. He's an 85% physique seal expert. If he doesn't get hit, we'll attack immediately. Poison Witch said. 85% physique seal expert, huh? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He felt that the other party was an 85% physique seal expert. Otherwise, they could have finished off the remaining 4 people after he and Poison Witch had entered. Why would they let them in? Of course, it was possible that the other party wanted them to scout the way. After all, middle-grade inheritances were more attractive. They're here. A series of cautious footsteps entered Yi Xian and Poison Witch's ears. They held their breaths and prepared to attack at any time. The last 8th degree physique seal expert was very careful. He was afraid that the people in front of him would hide and attack him. Soon he entered the poison array. Poison? That person immediately reacted and quickly retreated. There were many poisonous creatures in this poison cave, so he took an antidote pill in advance. However, this poison array was set up by the poison matriarch, so ordinary antidote pills were useless. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and quickly left the poison array. Poison Witch charged. And rushed she charged. Yi Xian followed. The 2 of them had already discussed that if the other party did not enter the poison array, they would defeat the other party with lightning speed. They of the dragon and dragon's heaven's dragon used. Wolf's charge. 10,000 poison palm. The of the dragon's dragon, of it dragon. Of them. Of them? Yes, the 8th degree physique seal expert's eyes flashed. Since they could use martial arts, they must be human. His aura surged, and the prince's token in his arms glowed with a dazzling white light. 3 rays of white light illuminated the entire poison cave. It's you? The 8th degree physique seal expert noticed Xianxia. No, he wasn't 8th degree physique seal expert. Like Poison Witch had guessed, he was hiding his strength. His true strength was 85%. But so what if he was 85%? The wolf's head bit the long-haired middle-aged man's thigh. In an instant, the wolf's fangs pierced through his thigh, causing him to bleed. Bang! Poison Witch's palm hit the long-haired middle-aged man's chest. She was a master of poison. Even her vital energy was poisonous. Her palm hit poisoned the middle-aged man. The long-haired middle-aged man cursed inwardly. He quickly shattered the wolf's head with a punch and prepared to retreat. Unfortunately, Xianxia and the poison matriarch had already charged over from the left and right. Firmament Fissure. 10,000 poisons palm. The long-haired young man was outnumbered. Although he blocked Xianxia's attack, he was hit by another palm. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His chest was starting to turn black. The poison in Poison Witch's vital energy had already entered his body. Hand over the prince's token, or you will die in 3 breaths. Poison Witch shouted. The middle-aged man's face darkened. He reached into his pocket, but he didn't choose to compromise. As long as he crushed the prince's token, the experts outside the secret realm would quickly heal his injuries. This way the 4th prince's dragon luck wouldn't go to the 6th prince. Oh no. Xianxia, who saw through his intentions, quickly slashed out with his sword and chopped off his left arm. At the same time, the middle-aged man crushed the prince's token in his hand. Whoosh! In a flash of white light, the long-haired middle-aged man disappeared, leaving behind a severed arm. Poison Witch was stunned. She didn't expect her opponent to choose not to compromise. He was playing with his life. At this moment, a breath had passed since the middle-aged man was teleported out. Poison Witch's poison was very powerful. It could kill someone in 3 breaths. If the middle-aged man couldn't detoxify the poison in 2 breaths, he would be dead. However, Poison Witch's 3 breaths was a little exaggerated. After all, her opponent was at 85% physique ceiling, while Poison Witch was at 85% physique ceiling. 2 breaths. 3 breaths. Xianxia and Poison Witch stayed in place. 3 breaths had passed but nothing happened. Phew! Poison Witch heaved a sigh of relief, but in the next moment she heard a voice. The opponent is dead. You have been judged as intentional homicide. You will be eliminated immediately and your dragon luck will be removed. Whoosh! A white light flashed in front of Xianxia, and Poison Witch disappeared instantly. Xianxia was shocked. Poison Witch's prince's token was not crushed, but she was suddenly teleported out. This meant that the long-haired middle-aged man didn't survive, and Poison Witch was judged as intentional homicide, so she was teleported out as well. Intentional homicide would be eliminated immediately and their dragon luck would be removed. This punishment was considered good. After all, he didn't have to pay with his life. In fact, Xianxia was afraid that he and Poison Witch would be teleported out of the secret realm together. Fortunately, it was only Poison Witch. What a pity. The 6th prince also lost a capable person and his dragon luck was removed. Xianxia sighed in his heart. Fortunately, it was only Poison Witch's dragon luck that was removed. Moreover, the long-haired middle-aged man was the 4th prince's man. With his death, the 4th prince would only have 9 people in the next round. Chapter 774. Now Xianxia was the last person to enter the poison cave. The Poison Witch had been teleported out, so he could only explore the poison cave alone. Let me see how many good things you have in this middle-grade inheritance. Xianxia turned around and continued to explore. There were many poisonous creatures in the poison cave, but Xianxia had the Eye of Revelation so he could easily avoid these dangers. Not long after he encountered a fork in the road. He randomly chose a path and encountered a second poisonous wind mantis. This poisonous wind mantis was stronger than the previous one, but it was still no match for Xianxia. It was easily killed and its corpse was devoured, and its dragon luck was absorbed. I should have a lot of dragon luck. Xianxia was pleased. He had received 2 people's dragon luck, and those 2 people had also received 1 or 2 low-grade inheritances, so they had all gathered on him. However, not long after Xianxia entered, a loud sound entered everyone's ears. Someone found a high-grade inheritance. What? This sentence shocked Xianxia. High-grade inheritance. The amount of dragon luck on the dragon luck pillars outside each land of inheritance varied. Low-grade inheritance lands had the least, followed by middle-grade inheritance lands, and high-grade inheritance lands naturally had the most. Not to mention the inheritances, just the dragon luck pillar alone probably contained a large amount of dragon luck. At this moment outside the secret realm. Oh, which prince is this black-robed person working for? What a fortune. This person is skinny. Could it be a woman? She seems very powerful. She's at least an expert with 85% physique ceiling realm, maybe even 90%. I remember that she's working for the 7th prince, right? A group of ministers discussed softly, and many of them focused their attention on the 7th prince. The 7th prince glanced at the dragon luck ranking nearby and found that he had already reached the top. He immediately smiled and said, "That's right. She's working for me." After hearing his answer, the ministers focused their attention on the image of the secret realm again. At this moment, the black-robed woman had already entered the land of inheritance. Following that, her strength shocked everyone. This is the inheritance of the Celestial Fist sect from the ancient Sage dynasty. So, it is the Heavenly Fist sect. That pair of Heavenly Fist puppets is terrifyingly strong. I did not expect that this black-robed woman could easily avoid them and obtain the Cosmos Ring. Oh, she obtained the method to control the Heavenly Fist puppet. What a windfall. I actually obtained a high-grade inheritance. Oh, that's a martial arts seed. Could it be the Heavenly Fist sect's secret skill, the Heaven-Shaking Fist? The ministers were all shocked, and so were the princes. The 7th prince did not expect that the black-robed woman could be so agile as to avoid the two powerful Heavenly Fist puppets and obtain the Qianquan ring. The saintess of the Nether Soul cult is indeed extraordinary. Not only is her physical prowess impressive, but she is also very powerful. The 7th prince licked his lips as he thought to himself. He had to get first place in this trial by fire. Only the champion could become the crown prince, the future emperor of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. When the black-robed woman obtained the Heavenly Fist sect's inheritance, Yixian had already entered deep into the poison cave. A corpse? Yixian's eyes flashed as he saw a corpse in front of him. It was the 5th batch of people who had entered earlier. This person's prince token and Qianquan ring were still there, but he had died a horrible death. His entire stomach was empty as if he had been eaten by some kind of poison. Seeing this, Yixian immediately scanned the surroundings with his eye of revelation. Although he did not find anything, he found a few small holes in the wall. Just in case, he decided not to go over. "Come here." Yixian used the dual space and pushed the corpse over. Then he put away the prince token and Qianquan ring. Gotcha. He absorbed the draconic luck in the prince token. In the next moment, the corpse turned into a ray of white light and disappeared. Then he released another puppet and ordered it to move forward. Poof. Suddenly, a black shadow flew out of a small hole and instantly pierced through the puppet. This is Yixian, who had activated his eye of revelation, captured the petite voice. He felt like he had seen this scene before. Devouring beast. Yixian's eyes widened. He did not expect to encounter another devouring beast. Previously, he had found a devouring beast in one of the Qianquan rings. This time he had found one again. Advancement point, here I come. Yixian's eyes lit up. He released another puppet and ordered it to move forward. Oh. The little devourer snake came out again, but this time Yixian slashed out with his sword. Firmament fissure. Hiss. The circular slash cut open the devourer's head, and the entire corpse crashed into the stone wall. Yixian hurriedly rushed forward and collected the devourer beast's corpse. Ding. Host has devoured a devouring beast's corpse. Obtained 1 advancement point. The system prompted. This was truly a pleasant surprise. Who would have thought that he would encounter a devouring beast in the secret grounds? This was much more valuable than an intermediate legacy. I'll keep this advancement point for now. Yixian thought to himself. Now that he had the Gemini bloodline, he could spend 5 advancement points to create another doppelganger. However, Yixian had already sealed 65% of his body with the Great Emperor's will. When he reached 100%, he would have to undergo the Supremacy Tribulation. The Supremacy Tribulation was extremely powerful. Not even 1 out of 10 half supremacies would be able to successfully pass it. Hence, Yixian guessed that when he reached 100% of his body seal, the chance of a breakthrough would appear again. When he reached the breakthrough, he would merge with his clone and gain a 10% boost in strength. Then, when he advanced to the Gemini bloodline, his strength boost would be increased to 20%. This was Yixian's plan. Of course, whether he could survive until he reached 100% of his body seal was still a question. Hence he would keep this as a backup for when the time came. Then Yi Xian continued to go deeper. However, there was a dead end in front of him. He had no choice but to go back and enter from another path. However, when he was halfway through, haha, the Poison King's inheritance. A burst of laughter suddenly came from the depths of the poison cave. Yi Xian stopped in his tracks and cursed inwardly. This voice seemed to belong to the 80% physique seal expert who had entered first. It seemed that the other party had obtained the intermediate legacy. The Poison King's inheritance? Yi Xian heard the voice but did not know who the Poison King was. However, to be able to obtain the intermediate legacy he must have a lot of wealth. At this time, a strong aura suddenly came from the depths of the poison cave. Someone had broken through. Dual poison heart pill, awesome. An excited voice came from the depths of the poison cave. Dual poison heart pill? Chapter 775. The dual poison heart attack pill was an elixir made from 2 deadly poisons. It could help a person break through quickly. However, the ingredients for this elixir were very difficult to collect and the refinement process was very strict. If the refinement failed and the dosage was wrong, the person who took it would immediately die. What a pity that it was eaten. Yi Xian felt a little helpless. At this moment he suddenly heard footsteps. It was that person walking out from the depths. At once, he hurriedly hid himself. His opponent was only at 80% physique seal. After taking the dual poison heart attack pill, he broke through to 85% physique seal. Yi Xian could still defeat him with a sneak attack. The footsteps were getting closer and closer. Yi Xian held his breath, waiting for his opponent to appear before him. He would immediately attack. He's here. Yi Xian heard the commotion. He gripped the telepathic sword in his hand tightly and stabbed it in a certain direction. Whoosh whoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air rang out. A giant wolf head pounced at his opponent. However, his opponent reacted quickly and dodged the wolf fangs. How dare you sneak attack me? You don't know what's good for you. The person shouted angrily and swung his sword at Yi Xian. Yi Xian saw that his sneak attack had failed, so he could only use force. There was a difference of 4 realms, but with his bloodline, it was not a problem to deal with him. Bam, bam, bam. The sound of their true chi colliding echoed throughout the poison cave. However, Yi Xian did not notice that a black scorpion the size of an index finger was rapidly approaching him. Kid, I have the Poison King's inheritance. His opponent snorted coldly. So what? Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. He did not understand why his opponent would suddenly tell him the truth. But in the next moment he understood. Pfft. Suddenly something sharp pierced Yi Xian's foot. He looked down and saw that it was a black scorpion the size of an index finger. Yi Xian had never heard of the Poison King, but he had the ability to control poisonous creatures. This martial artist had the Poison King's inheritance, so he naturally had this ability as well. Not good. Yi Xian's expression darkened. He felt his entire foot being paralyzed. Ding. Host has been poisoned. Detoxification beginning. He quickly swallowed the detoxification pill in his mouth. The poison which had set up a non-lethal formation, so the detoxification pill in his mouth was the one to remove the paralysis. However, what was even worse was still to come. Yi Xian's eye of insight swept over and discovered that a large amount of poison had suddenly surged out from the stone wall. Poisonous scorpions, snakes, centipedes, and all kinds of poisonous creatures. And? The expert who had obtained the Poison King's inheritance said coldly. Yi Xian's face darkened. He actually wanted to run, but his path of retreat was already covered by those poisonous insects. Furthermore, he couldn't fly or shrink the ground into an inch, so how could he escape? At that moment, the poison in his body had actually been neutralized. However, he was pretending to be paralyzed. You don't know what's good for you. Bite him. The Poison King's inheritor snorted. He immediately had one of the poisonous creatures near Yi Xian's feet crawl up Yi Xian's body and bite him. The bite was not painful, but this poisonous creature was a 100-pain centipede. Being bitten by it would cause heart-wrenching pain. After Yi Xian was bitten, he immediately felt immense pain. However, not long after, the pain disappeared without a trace and was removed by the bloodline of the divine tree of life. Sir, give me something more powerful. Yi Xian grinned, holding the prince's token in his hand. How can he be fine? The Poison King's inheritor was shocked. At this moment, there were more than a dozen different poisonous creatures around Yi Xian. There were more than 1,000 of them. In addition, the only way out had already been sealed off by his poison. It was a slow passage, so Yi Xian wouldn't be able to escape even if he had wings. The Poison King's inheritor was slightly surprised. Then he smiled playfully and said, "Since you want to play, I'll play with you." He immediately controlled a more poisonous creature to bite Yixian. Yixian felt dizzy after being bitten. However, the effect only lasted for a second before it was relieved by the divine tree of life bloodline. Why is this kid so weird? The Poison King's inheritor was a little helpless. He controlled another poisonous creature to bite Yixian. However, the effect only lasted for a second or two. Yixian was alive and kicking again as if nothing had happened. My resistance to poison is getting stronger. Yixian narrowed his eyes. In fact, he had a way to escape the poison cave. That was to use the dragon-patterned golden armor. The dragon-patterned golden armor could cover him completely. These poisonous creatures would not be able to enter. At the same time, as long as he used the dragon-patterned golden armor, this person would definitely be killed by his sword. The dragon-patterned golden armor has too many implications. If I'm recognized, I might be killed. If not, I might lose my qualification. It's better not to use it. Yixian thought to himself. After all, he had killed the city lord of Tianfeng City. The latter had both an official position and a noble title. If he was recognized, he would be accused of killing an official of the Sunflame Holy Dynasty. Although he had evidence in his devouring space, the seventh prince was the backer of the ghost cult. If the evidence was not recognized, he would be in trouble. After all, the evidence was obtained from the vice city lord of Tianfeng City. Moreover, the vice city lord was already dead. There was no evidence. The evidence might be said to be fabricated. Kid, how did you become immune to these poisons? At this moment, the Poison King's inheritor could not help but ask. He had obtained the Poison King's inheritance. Those who used poison were most afraid of poison experts. Yixian was right in front of him. He did not move at all, but he could detoxify himself. He was very curious about this body constitution. I'll tell you after I'm bitten by all the poisonous creatures. Yixian grinned. Humph, as you wish. The Poison King's inheritor snorted. However, how would he know that Yixian had the bloodline of the divine tree of life and could detoxify himself quickly? A few seconds later, all the poisonous creatures left a mark on Yixian's body. At the same time, Yixian was immune to all the poisonous creatures present. To be on the safe side, he scanned with the Eye of Revelation. He did not miss anything and was immune to all the poisonous creatures. Kit, how did you do it? The Poison King's inheritor asked. Yixian held the spiritual rhino sword tightly and smiled. It's simple. Because I am immune to all poisons. Whoosh. Before he could finish his sentence, he had already made his move. The Poison King's inheritor had been on guard. Naturally, he would not be hit. At the same time, he controlled the poisonous creatures to attack Yixian. However, Yixian was already immune to the poison of these poisonous insects. These poisonous insects no longer posed any threat to him. Chapter 776. Yixian's expression was cold. He had taken advantage of the fact that his opponent did not know about his Tree of Life bloodline to increase his poison resistance. The disadvantage had turned into a tie in an instant. Damn it, this brat is not afraid of poison anymore. The Poison King's inheritor cursed. Boom, boom, boom. Yixian endured the bites of the poisonous insects while fighting with the Poison King's inheritor. The two of them weren't too far apart in strength, and the entire poison cave was filled with activity as they fought fiercely. Brat, take this. The Poison King's inheritor suddenly took out a bag of poisonous powder and was about to throw it at Yixian. You dare to show off your poisonous powder? You're courting death. Yixian's eyes lit up. This was an opportunity for him. Gravity space, wind space. Before the Poison King's inheritor could throw the poisonous powder, two forces pressed down on the bag of poisonous powder. Bam! With a muffled sound, the bag of poisonous powder exploded, and the poisonous powder filled the air. The poisonous powder landed on the Poison King's inheritor's body and melted his arm along with his clothes. Ah! The Poison King's inheritor did not expect Yixian to have such a trick up his sleeve. After all, profound meaning was useless against people who had sealed more than 50% of their physique, let alone someone like him who had sealed more than 85% of his physique. However, profound meaning was useless against people, but it was still useful against things. Yixian immediately used the dual space to control the bag of poisonous powder and wrapped it around the Poison King's inheritor. The Poison King's inheritor's heart-wrenching scream echoed in the cave. He had already thrown away the long sword in his hand and was trembling in pain. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, Yixian quickly slashed twice. One cut off the interspatial ring on his opponent's arm, while the other cut off his opponent's prince token. Whoosh. The Poison King's inheritor turned into a ray of light and flew out of the secret realm. Immediately, experts came forward to help heal him. Even Yi Xian did not expect the battle to end so quickly. There was nothing he could do about it. Who asked his opponent to seek death? I hope he doesn't die. Besides, I didn't do it on purpose. Even if he dies, it shouldn't have anything to do with me. Yi Xian's heart trembled. After all, he had saved Yi Xian's life by sending him out of the mystic realm. Otherwise, Yi Xian would have been reduced to a pool of blood. Immediately, he hurried over to pick up the 2 interspatial rings in case they died. Then, he was suddenly teleported out of the mystic realm. Although he didn't obtain the other party's dragon luck, he still obtained a middle-grade inheritance. This was already a good harvest. Ding! The host has broken through. The current seal of the Great Emperor's will is at 70%. Yi Xian directly swallowed the good stuff inside and broke through to the next realm. Then he waited quietly for a while, but he didn't find anything happening. It seemed that the other party had either survived or died, but was thought to have reaped what he had sown. Huff huff. Yi Xian breathed a sigh of relief. His dragon luck was not low, and it would be a pity if it was reset to 0. More importantly, if he was eliminated, then the remaining 2 days would be wasted. Since he wasn't eliminated, he quickly found a corner and sat down. Then he learned the skill of controlling poisonous insects in the Poison King inheritance. At this time, he had already gathered the poisonous insects in the only path. If anyone came in, the poisonous insects would instantly surge out and poison them to death. Although I wasn't in danger just now, I have to thank the Poison Witch for the antidote pill. This Poison King inheritance is not useful to me, so I'll give it to her after the Battle of Dragon Luck, Yi Xian thought to himself. When he was stung by the poisonous scorpion, he could have directly used the dragon-patterned golden armor. However, the Poison Witch's antidote pill resolved the crisis of his secret being exposed, so he had to thank her. Anyway, most of the content in the Poison King inheritance was about refining poison and poison arrays. Yi Xian had already copied it into the devouring system. He had already devoured all the good stuff, so it didn't matter to him. What a pity. If that dual poison heart attack pill was used for a special devouring system, I might be able to break through to the next realm once or twice. Yi Xian sighed helplessly. The other party's physique seal was at 80%, but after obtaining the dual poison heart attack pill, she broke through to 85% physique seal. If that pill was given to Yi Xian, he would have profited greatly. Then Yi Xian directly left the poison cave. Although he had gained the most from this trip, someone had already found a high-grade inheritance. Hence he had to hurry up. Immediately he found a ranking stone tablet nearby and took a look. The 7th prince is 1st, the 6th prince is 2nd, the 4th prince is 3rd, and the 1st prince is 4th? Yi Xian understood the rankings. It seemed that the person who obtained the high-grade inheritance was an expert under the 7th prince's command. At the same time, the expert who was killed by the poison which was also under the 7th prince's command. In other words, the 7th prince would only have 9 people participating in the second round. Forget it, this is only the first round anyway. Let's continue looking for the inheritance. Yi Xian's figure flashed and left the place. The value of a mid-grade inheritance was very high. If the dual poison heart attack pill had appeared, then the other mid-grade inheritances would probably be even more valuable. Even mid-grade inheritances were so valuable, let alone high-grade inheritances. Yi Xian estimated that by the end of the Battle of Draconic Luck, there would be many experts with 90% physique seal, or even 95% physique seal. Hence he could not fall behind too much. A day passed quickly. In this day Yi Xian found more than 10 low-grade inheritances, but he did not find a single mid-grade inheritance. At this time, more than half of the Battle of Draconic Luck had passed, and there was only 1 day left. It's been almost 2 days. I estimate that there are at most 50 people left and they are all experts. Yi Xian was still wandering in the forest and he was still at 70% physique seal. He had no choice as it was too difficult for him to break through. At this moment, the second high-grade inheritance has been found. Suddenly, a voice entered Yi Xian's ears and his body trembled. The second high-grade inheritance. 2 high-grade inheritances in 2 days. The probability is not low. I estimate that there are no more than 5 high-grade inheritances in the entire secret realm. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He remembered that he was very close to the ranking stone tablet, so he immediately went over to take a look. Today, the 4th prince's dragon luck was at the top. The 2nd was the 7th prince, the 3rd was the 6th prince, and the 4th was the eldest prince. Damn it, the 6th prince is 3rd. Yi Xian was a little helpless. He represented the 6th prince, but he did not expect to be ranked 3rd. However, he felt that the eldest prince was a little strange because the eldest prince's team was very strong. All 10 of them were at 80% physique seal and above. When they entered the secret realm they were already at 90% physique seal, but they were ranked last. This could only mean that the eldest prince's team was very unlucky. Except for these 4 people, the rest of the princes did not catch Yi Xian's attention. Chapter 777. I have to hurry. If I can find a high-grade inheritance, the dragon luck might be able to help the 6th prince return to first place. Yi Xian hurriedly made his move. However, he had only taken a few steps when a figure entered his sight. This person. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He felt that this figure was somewhat familiar. He thought about it carefully. Is that Xiaoyuni? Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. Xiaoyuni was the old man who had beaten him up like a dog. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Yi Xian was pleasantly surprised. Previously he was not strong enough and could only be chased around by Xiaoyuni like a dog. Today however he had the strength to fight back. Xiaoyuni sprinted through the forest. Yi Xian saw that his speed wasn't fast, and wasn't much faster than the Poison King's inheritor from back then. It seemed that his luck wasn't good either, and he didn't obtain any good inheritances. If I kill you, my dragon luck will be erased and I will be eliminated. This time I will collect some interest. Yi Xian was ready to make his move. However, in the next moment he felt a little strange because Xiaoyuni was sprinting in a certain direction without stopping. He seemed to be in a hurry. This confused Yi Xian, so he decided to follow Xiaoyuni for a while to see what he was up to. Xiaoyuni was very fast. Yi Xian followed him. He had to follow him and make sure that he was not discovered by Xiaoyuni. About half an hour later, Xiaoyuni emerged from the forest. There was a long canyon in front of him. There were already several figures at the entrance of the canyon. There are 6 people? Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. It seemed that Xiaoyuni had a special method. Among the 6 people, Yi Xian recognized one of them. It was the 6th prince's personal guard, Xianxia. The other 5 were experts under the command of the 1st prince, the 4th prince, and the 7th prince. If Yi Xian was included, there were 2 experts under the 4th prince. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly had a flash of inspiration. There were so many experts. Could this be the upper-tier inheritance that had just been discovered? Chief Steward Xia, so it's you. A blue-clothed middle-aged man shouted. He had used a special method to bring Xiaoyuni over. Xiaoyuni ran over and glanced at the scattered people in the surroundings. Is this a high-grade inheritance? The blue-robed middle-aged man nodded and said in a low voice, That's right, I discovered this inheritance first. However, I tried to obtain it once and I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to obtain it by myself. Thus, I attracted some people over after obtaining the Dragon Luck Pillar. The reason why he was not surrounded was because he had obtained a middle-grade inheritance and broken through to 90% physique sealing realm. With a large amount of draconic luck, even if the people present worked together, they would not be able to eliminate him. After the others saw Xiaoyuni, their faces turned gloomy. This blue-clothed middle-aged man's strength was exceptional. Now that Xiaoyuni was added, it would be even more difficult to deal with. Suddenly, another person walked out of the forest. Oh, there's another one. The blue-clothed middle-aged man saw Yi Xian slowly walking out of the forest through Xiaoyuni's figure. Xiaoyuni turned around and did not pay much attention when he saw that it was just a brat at 70% physique sealing realm. He would not associate Yi Xian with the person who killed his grandson. After all, that person was only at 45% physique sealing realm. The difference was too great. Xianxia, who was leaning against the stone wall, saw Yi Xian and his eyes flashed. However, when he thought of Yi Xian's strength, he felt slightly helpless. Brat, this is a high-grade inheritance. You won't be able to help, Xianxia said to Yi Xian. That's not necessarily true, Yi Xian said. At this moment, Xianxia suddenly flew over and whispered, Brat, I obtained a lot of draconic luck in the past 2 days. I'll give you all of it. Crush the prince's medallion and leave to secure the draconic luck. This, Yi Xian raised his eyebrows and said, You don't plan to fight for this inheritance? The inheritance is indeed important, but the draconic luck is even more important. If the 6th prince can become the crown prince, these things are nothing, Xianxia continued. He was thinking for the 6th prince. After all, he was the 6th prince's personal guard. Then why don't we explore this high-grade inheritance first? If it doesn't work, just crush the prince's medallion and leave, Yi Xian suggested. As you can see, there are a few people with 90% physique sealing realm here. The weakest one is at 85% physique sealing realm. You're only at 70% physique sealing realm. Can you help? Xianxia was very doubtful. Although he had heard that Yi Xian had successfully challenged someone 3 levels above him, He had only succeeded in defeating someone with 70% physique sealing realm. Haha. Yi Xian smiled and turned to look at Xianxia. He whispered, "If the opponent is that old man, I'm confident I can kill him." What? Yang Qi suspected that he had misheard. Yi Xian was confident that he could kill Xianxia, who was at 85% physique sealing realm. "Alright, since that's the case, you'll come with me." Yang Qi immediately nodded. If anything happened along the way, he would crush Yi Xian's prince's medallion and eliminate Yi Xian. This would prevent the medallion from being taken away and draconic luck from being absorbed. Then Yang Qi walked over with Yi Xian. The other two forces also gathered. "Captain Yang, are you going to bring him along?" the middle-aged man in blue asked in shock. "You don't have to worry about that." Yang Qi didn't waste time. Yi Xian was his trump card. When everyone heard this, they snorted inwardly. It was already a miracle that Yi Xian, who was at 70% physique sealing realm, could survive until now. However, he still wanted to explore this high-grade inheritance. He was courting death. No one present dared to underestimate Yang Qi's strength, but bringing along a burden was a waste of time. This brat probably has a lot of draconic luck. Yang Qi has already given it to him. If necessary, he can send it out of the secret realm. Everyone came to a realization. In their eyes, Yi Xian was equivalent to a transporter. "We have 2 people from each of the 4 forces. Since that's the case, tell us about this high-grade inheritance." A black-clad old man under the first prince looked at the middle-aged man in blue. The middle-aged man in blue was the first to arrive. He had also absorbed the draconic luck pillar at the entrance of the canyon. At the same time, he had also gone in to explore. Now that everyone was present, the middle-aged man in blue didn't hide anything and explained, "When I went in to explore just now, I was surrounded by many armored cavalrymen. These armored cavalrymen would regroup after being defeated, so I suspect that this is the inheritance of the Wolf Fang general from 1,000 years ago." When the middle-aged man in blue finished speaking, everyone present was shocked. "The Wolf Fang general? It can't be right?" Xiaoyuni said subconsciously. After all, he had seen the Wolf Fang general's dragon-patterned golden armor with his own eyes. After all, his grandson had died at the hands of the man wearing the dragon-patterned golden armor. Chapter 778. It's just a suspicion. "If you don't believe me, you can follow me in and take a look," the middle-aged man in blue said. "Let's call him the Wolf Fang general then. How strong is the Wolf Fang cavalry?" the old man in black asked. "A single Wolf Fang cavalry is comparable to an 8th-level physique sealing realm martial artist," the middle-aged man in blue answered. The next moment, everyone was shocked. It said that the Wolf Fang general has 3,000 Wolf Fang cavalry. If a single Wolf Fang cavalry is that strong, we'll definitely die if we go in. That's right. Even if we're strong, we won't be able to survive against 3,000 8th-level physique sealing realm martial artists unless we're supremes. There's no way to get the inheritance. Can we just go over the cliff? Everyone looked solemn. At this moment, the middle-aged man in blue said, "No, there's a formation at the top of the canyon. Even I can't break it. But it's not as difficult as you think. I estimate that there are only 300 Wolf Fang cavalry here." If there's only 300 Wolf Fang cavalry, it's possible. But is there a saber general under the Wolf Fang general in this canyon? A young man asked. Yes, but there are only 5 of them. I estimate that they're 9th-level physique sealing realm martial artists. Also, I saw the Wolf Fang general's dragon-patterned golden armor in the depths. The middle-aged man in blue nodded. Dragon-patterned golden armor? Everyone was shocked. This item was enough to make them risk their lives. After all, they all had hopes of breaking through to the physique sealing realm in their lifetime. If they had the dragon-patterned golden armor, their chances of breaking through to the Supremes would be higher. Xiaoyuni was the same. But he was shocked that there was a second dragon-patterned golden armor in this world. Could it be that the dragon-patterned golden armor I saw earlier was a copy, and only its defensive power was stronger? Xiaoyuni thought to himself. At the same time, Yi Xian was also guessing. There's a blueprint for the dragon-patterned golden armor in the treasure pavilion. As long as I have the materials, I can make a dragon-patterned golden armor. It seems that the dragon-patterned golden armor in the upper inheritance is the real one. Yi Xian thought. He was determined to get the dragon-patterned golden armor because as long as he could get it, he would be able to wear it legitimately. Since that's the case, there's no need to say anything more. Let's each choose a breakthrough point, said the black-clothed old man. The blue-robed middle-aged man was unable to break through 300 Wolf Fang cavalrymen, who were equivalent to 80% of the body-sealing realm. However, there were 4 factions, and if they all broke through at the same time, each faction would have less than 100 Wolf Fang cavalrymen. That's right. After breaking through, the inheritance of the Wolf Fang general will depend on one's ability. Xianxia nodded. To be honest, he was also very interested in the dragon-patterned golden armor. However, it all depended on who reached the end and obtained the inheritance. As long as someone obtained the inheritance, they could crush the prince's token and fly out of the secret realm. As for the others, they had gained nothing. The people from the four powers each chose a breakthrough point. Yixin and Yangqi were on the far right. Coincidentally, Xiaoyuni was on his left, right next to him. The 300 Wolf Fang cavalry and the 5 deputy generals should be controlled by the experts of the royal family. It seems that the last dragon-patterned golden armor will also move, Yixin reminded himself in his heart. Boom. At that moment, a loud sound came from the left. Someone had attacked the Wolf Fang cavalrymen in front of them. Let's go. Yang Qi, who was next to Yixin, shouted and rushed over. The Wolf Fang cavalrymen were equivalent to 80% of the body-sealing realm, and there were 300 of them. If Yixin was alone, it would be extremely difficult for him to break through, unless he wore the dragon-patterned golden armor. However, if he joined forces with Yang Qi, there would be no problem. Yixin held the spiritual rhino sword and followed closely behind Yang Qi. Yang Qi was a 90% of the body-sealing realm expert, and he was very strong. He also had the prince's token in his hand, and occasionally used the dragon luck to support him. Every time he swung his sword, he could send 2 or 3 Wolf Fang cavalrymen flying. Although Yixin was slightly weaker, it was not a problem for him to send 1 Wolf Fang cavalryman flying. At that moment, he used the Eye of Revelation to copy the martial arts of Yang Qi and the others into the devouring system. Captain Yang, go to the right. There are fewer of them there. Yixin suddenly reminded him. He had discovered this with the Eye of Revelation. Just now, someone had broken through first, but it was not much of an advantage. If they had broken through first, more Wolf Fang cavalrymen would have rushed over. In this way, Yixin and Yang Qi had benefited. Okay. Yang Qi trusted Yixin for the time being and rushed to the right. Countless Wolf Fang cavalrymen followed, but they were all sent flying by the 2 of them. The Wolf Fang cavalrymen's defense was very strong. Even if they were forcefully separated, under the control of the imperial family experts, they would quickly regroup and continue to fight. If one were to compare the progress of the 4 forces, the 7th prince and Xiaoyuni were the fastest, because they did not hesitate to use the draconic fortune of the universe. Yang Qi and Yixin were second, followed by the 1st prince's black-robed old man and young man, and finally the 4th prince's pair of middle-aged twins. Because there was a large number of Wolf Fang cavalrymen in between, no one knew the progress of the others. However, Yixin used the Eye of Revelation to discover this. The 7th prince's 2 subordinates are recklessly using the draconic fortune. They are about to break through. Yixin reminded. What? Yang Qi was shocked. In the next moment, his aura also surged. This time he was going all out. If Xiaoyuni and Xiaoyuni were to break through, then the blue-robed middle-aged man with 90% body seal would use a large amount of draconic fortune to resist the 5 deputy generals, and Xiaoyuni would be able to obtain the inheritance. Just as Yang Qi began to use a large amount of draconic fortune, Xiaoyuni and the blue-robed middle-aged man had already broken through the encirclement. In front of them were 5 deputy generals with 90% body seal. Behind the 5 deputy generals was the coveted dragon-patterned golden armor. At the same time, on a table beside the dragon-patterned golden armor was an interspatial ring. Come! The middle-aged man in blue roared. His aura instantly doubled. He wanted to fight against the deputy Longdao general, who had his body sealed by the wills of 5 great emperors. At the same time, Xiaoyuni also used a large amount of draconic fortune and followed closely behind the blue-robed middle-aged man. When the blue-robed middle-aged man stepped into the range of the deputy generals, the 5 deputy generals also charged over. As for Xiaoyuni, no one stopped him. At the same time, Yang Qi had already charged out, and Yixin was right behind him. Don't even think about getting past me. Yang Qi used a large amount of draconic fortune to intercept Xiaoyuni before he could. Scram. Xiaoyuni didn't care so much and turned around to attack. Although he was 1 level lower than Yang Qi, he had come out first, so Yang Qi couldn't intercept him. Chapter 779. The dragon-patterned golden armor is also being controlled. Yixin's eyes narrowed. He had discovered a strange energy within the dragon-patterned golden armor with his insightful eye. Hence, he decided to help deal with Xiaoyuni first. Damn it! Xiaoyuni cursed. He struggled to block the attack while charging toward the dragon-patterned golden armor. At the same time, The other two forces broke through the encirclement of the Wolf Fang cavalry. Stop! The black-clothed old man under the first prince shouted. Xiaoyuni had already reached the dragon-patterned golden armor. Just as he was about to take the interspatial ring, the statue-like dragon-patterned golden armor suddenly moved. Peng! The dragon-patterned golden armor punched Xiaoyuni's shoulder and sent him flying. The punch was so powerful that it penetrated Xiaoyuni's bones. If it had hit his chest, Xiaoyuni would have died instantly. Fortunately, the dragon-patterned golden armor was controlled by a royal family expert, so it would not kill him. What? Xiaoyuni himself was dumbfounded. Just as he was about to obtain the item, he discovered such a thing. It was really too tragic. He was not the only one who was shocked. So were the others. None of the people present were able to block that punch just now. Body seal 100%. The dragon-patterned golden armor was comparable to a body seal 100% expert. Damn it, what a loss. The middle-aged man in blue cursed the person who set up this checkpoint thousands of times. He had used up his draconic luck to block the 5 saber deputies, but he did not expect to be a guinea pig. Haha, you're finished? The black-robed old man laughed and suddenly rushed towards the blue-robed middle-aged man. The young man who was with him did the same. The middle-aged man in blue was already under a lot of pressure when facing the 5 saber deputies who had reached 90% body seal. With the addition of these two people, he had no way to block them. Crack. The middle-aged man in blue smashed his prince token and turned into a stream of light to leave the mystery realm. Finished? The elder in black's expression darkened. Since the middle-aged man had left, the two of them were the closest to the saber deputies. Sure enough, the moment the blue-clothed middle-aged man disappeared, the deputy generals with long sabers instantly turned to look at him. Then they attacked together. The black-robed old man was reluctant to part with this superior inheritance, so he immediately turned around and shouted, "Let's get rid of them together, then we'll discuss the distribution method." When the twins heard this, they looked over at Xianxia. "All right." Xianxia replied when he saw that the dragon-patterned golden armor was only protecting the platform and not attacking anyone else. But before that, he had to deal with Xiaoyuni first. Xiaoyuni was sent flying by the dragon-patterned golden armor. Just as he stabilized himself, a figure appeared beside him. "Old man, collect some interest first." While Xiaoyuni was defenseless, Yixin slashed out with his sword and cut off his arm. Hiss. Yixin raised an arm and quickly took off the Cosmos ring. Although Xiaoyuni didn't manage to break through to the 90% physique seal stage, he still managed to find quite a few inheritances. There were quite a few things in this ring that allowed Yixin's strength to soar. "Old man, have a taste of this move." At this time, Yixin suddenly struck out with his palm. This was the Great Compassion palm that Xiaoyuni had just used, and it was also the move that had injured Yixin severely. What? Xiaoyuni was shocked. This move was his ultimate move, so how could Yixin know it too? Boom. Xiaoyuni's body flew out again. This time, he flew directly into the range of the Wolf Fang cavalry. The Wolf Fang cavalry's range of movement was leisurely. This was the range of the 5 saber lieutenants, so they couldn't enter. But now they could attack. Kacha. Before Xiaoyuni could land, one of the Wolf Fang cavalry stabbed out with his saber, piercing the prince's medallion on his chest. He immediately turned into a stream of light and disappeared without a trace. "All right, let's quickly deal with these 5 saber lieutenants." The black-robed old man shouted. "All right." The elder brother of the middle-aged twins also agreed. 1 saber lieutenant each wouldn't be a problem. At this moment, the 5 of them all used their draconic luck to quickly deal with the 5 saber lieutenants. Normally, the twins wouldn't be able to deal with them, but they had obtained a lot of draconic luck, so it was enough to kill the 5 saber lieutenants. "I can't reveal too much of my strength. Later, when we fight for the inheritance ring, I'll use my full strength," Yixin thought as he attacked the saber lieutenants. In terms of draconic luck, he had the highest draconic luck among the 6 of them. But don't forget, the others were all using draconic luck, so who would care about him who had 70% physique seal? Xianxia, who was the strongest among them, was the first to defeat a saber lieutenant, but he had no intention of helping. "Kid, I'll use all my strength to block the dragon-patterned golden armor. You quickly get the interspatial ring," Xianxia whispered to Yixin. Yixin was stunned for a moment, then immediately nodded. Xiaoyuni, who had gone to get the interspatial ring, was only at 85% physique seal. Xianxia was much stronger than him, and with the support of his draconic luck, it shouldn't be a problem for him to block a punch. In an instant, Xianxia rushed toward the dragon-patterned golden armor with Yixin. You didn't keep your promise. The black-robed elder immediately panicked when he saw this. They had agreed to deal with the 5 dragon-patterned golden armor first, but Xianxia and Xiaoyuni suddenly changed their mind. It could only be said that they were too naive. In the face of such an inheritance, they could throw away their integrity. Bam! Xianxia had already stepped into the range of the dragon-patterned golden armor. In an instant, the dragon-patterned golden armor rushed toward him and threw a punch at him. Boom! Xianxia directly used all his draconic luck to block the punch. The dragon-patterned golden armor strength was comparable to a human at 100% physique seal, but Xianxia was only 2 levels lower. With the support of his draconic luck, blocking the punch was not a problem. By the time Xianxia blocked the punch, Yixin had already passed by them and was going straight for the interspatial ring. There was an array on the platform where the interspatial ring was placed. Yixin's profound meaning was useless against it, so he could only grab it with his hands. Damn it! The others cursed in their hearts when they saw Yixin grab the interspatial ring. Yixin didn't expect to get the inheritance of the interspatial ring so easily. He originally wanted to go all out, but he didn't expect things to turn out this way. The moment he got the interspatial ring, he quickly checked it and found that there weren't many things inside. He had the 10,000 divine thoughts technique. He also had the forging methods for the Wolf Fang cavalry, the deputy saber general, and the dragon-patterned golden armor. This interspatial ring was completely useless to him. Chapter 780. While Xianxia was putting away the dragon-patterned golden armor, he was also dealing with the 2 saber lieutenants. Xianxia had no choice but to shout, "Let's go! Let's get out of the secret realm." With that, he smashed his prince medallion. Yixin hesitated for a moment before smashing his as well. The 2 of them turned into streams of light and flew out of the secret realm. In the blink of an eye, they appeared at the place where they had entered the secret realm. There were already many people gathered there. "Great, this is great." The 6th prince applauded as he quickly walked out of the hall. The cooperation between Yixin and Xianxia just now was simply perfect. After that, they even obtained the inheritance of the Wolf Fang general and the dragon-marked golden armor. "Your Highness." Xianxia immediately bowed after he left. "You're welcome," the 6th prince said with a smile. Although Xianxia and Yixin had used a lot of dragon luck to obtain the inheritance, the 7th prince, 4th prince, and eldest prince had also used a lot of dragon luck. Among them, the 7th prince's loss was the greatest. At this time he was already gnashing his teeth in anger in a corner. "Your Highness, this is the dragon-patterned golden armor." Xianxia hurriedly took out the dragon-patterned golden armor. In the next moment the crowd was in an uproar. The dragon-patterned golden armor's defensive power was amazing. It could even withstand 20% of the power of the lightning tribulation. It was a huge temptation to them. Some of the ministers had already reached 100% of the physique sealing realm. However, they could only suppress their cultivation and did not dare to break through. If they failed, they would be destroyed by the lightning tribulation. Yixin was a little helpless. He also took out the interspatial ring and handed it over. "Your Highness, this is the inheritance of the Wolf Fang general." Unexpectedly, the 6th prince ignored the dragon-patterned golden armor and took Yixin's interspatial ring. The blueprints for the Wolf Fang cavalry, the saber lieutenants, and the dragon-patterned golden armor. "Good, with them I can build a powerful army." The 6th prince was overjoyed. He knew that the most valuable thing in the secret realm was the inheritance of the Wolf Fang general. "Sigh, what a pity. Not only did I not get anything but I also wasted the last day." Yixin sighed in his heart. He did know the 10,000 divine thoughts technique, but the 300 Wolf Fang cavalry and the 5 long blade deputy generals were all under the control of the imperial family. He couldn't take control of them. Furthermore, Deputy General Saber had been on the verge of being defeated, and if he had stayed behind, he would have been surrounded. Therefore he had no choice but to follow Xianxia. However, right at that moment, "Yixin, you've done a great service this time. This dragon-patterned golden armor is yours," the 6th prince suddenly said. "What?" Hearing this, Yixin could not believe his ears. He thought that the 6th prince would definitely accept the dragon-patterned golden armor. Who would have thought that the 6th prince would directly give it to him? "Your Highness, this is..." Yixin asked in astonishment. In the next moment he understood why the 6th prince did not want it. It was because the 6th prince already had the dragon-patterned golden armor. When they saw the 6th prince wrapped in the dragon-patterned golden armor, everyone was shocked. "He has it?" Yixin raised his eyebrows. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. The 6th prince was the son of the Sunflame's sacred dynasty's emperor. Moreover, he had a good character and was favored by the Sunflame's Sacred Dynasty's emperor. It was normal for him to receive the dragon-patterned golden armor. At that moment in a corner. What? He has the dragon-patterned golden armor? The seventh prince's eyes widened. He had only just found out that the sixth prince had the dragon-patterned golden armor. If the sixth prince did not show it to him, he would still be in the dark. Damn that old man. How can he be so biased? The seventh prince cursed in his heart. Not only that, but the fourth prince and the others also did the same. Instantly, all eyes were on the sixth prince. There was envy, jealousy, and hatred. Ah, Yixian, take it. The sixth prince kept the dragon-patterned golden armor and laughed. As long as he had the materials, he could make the dragon-patterned golden armor himself. When the time came, Xianxia would have it too. Most importantly, the sixth prince saw that Yixian was not ordinary and wanted to use the dragon-patterned golden armor to keep Yixian. Thank you, Your Highness. Yixian quickly put the dragon-patterned golden armor away. Now he could finally wear the dragon-patterned golden armor. As for the extra set of dragon-patterned golden armor, he could leave it to others. You two go back and rest, the sixth prince said. Yes, Your Highness. Yixian and Xianxia cupped their fists respectfully and left the imperial city under the lead of a eunuch. When Yixian returned to the sixth prince's residence, he went to find the poison matriarch and pass the poison king legacy to her. There were 2 more stages and they had to work together. There was still 1 day before the Battle of Draconic Luck. Yixian returned to his residence. When he entered the secret realm, he was only at 60% body sealing. When he left, he was at 70% body sealing. He felt that no one could stop him in the Crown Prince's trial. After the Battle of Draconic Luck, there will be a few days of rest. At that time, the sixth prince might give me some rewards. That way, I will be able to break through to 75% body sealing. Yixian pondered in his room. In fact, he had another option, which was to devour the dragon-patterned golden armor. However, while the dragon-patterned golden armor was precious to others, it was just a material for the devouring system. If he devoured it directly, it would not give him much experience and it would be difficult for him to break through once. Therefore, Yixian decided to keep the dragon-patterned golden armor for now. If necessary, he would devour it directly in the next stage. After all, he had the blueprint for the dragon-patterned golden armor. As long as he had the materials, he could make it himself. His priority was to improve his strength and help the sixth prince win the Crown Prince's trial. Soon a day had passed. The Battle of Draconic Luck was finally over. When the sixth prince returned to his residence, he immediately summoned Yixian and the others. For this Battle of Draconic Luck, we are temporarily ranked 3rd. The 7th prince is ranked 1st, the eldest prince is ranked 2nd, and the 4th prince is ranked 4th. The 6th prince reported the rankings and said, "Not bad, we did not lose any members. In fact, we improved a lot." After he finished speaking, he turned his attention to Yixian. With the dragon-patterned golden armor, Yixian was probably the strongest among them. After all, he had obtained the most draconic luck, more than Xianxia at his peak. The others might not know and only looked at him with envious gazes, but the sixth prince had witnessed Yixian defeat the Poison King's inheritor under the sixth prince's command. That was an expert with 85% of his body sealed. In this battle of draconic luck, Gu Jian, Chief Steward Zhua, and Xianxia had all successfully broken through to 90% body sealing. Although the venomous witch was slightly weaker, she had also obtained the Poison King's inheritor. Moreover, the sixth prince had promised to help her break through to 85% body sealing. As for the other 4, only Qiao Bao had broken through to 85% body sealing. The other 3 did not gain much. Chapter 781. These are the information of the other 3 princes' subordinates. Take a look. The sixth prince threw 10 sets of information to Yixian's team and continued, "Among the teams in this battle of dragon luck, our team is probably ranked 3rd. I'm afraid that the first prince and the 7th prince's teams have 90% physique sealing completion. After this battle of dragon luck, some of them have reached 95% physique sealing completion, and some of them are suspected to have reached 100% physique sealing completion." After hearing this, Yixian's team was shocked. Suspected to have reached 100% physique sealing completion? Who is it? Chief Steward Zhua asked. A woman in a black robe. I've never heard of her before. I don't know where he got her from. She was also the one who got the high-grade inheritance from the Heavenly Fist sect. The sixth prince shook his head and said, "Not only that, but the first prince also got a high-grade inheritance." Hearing this, everyone felt a huge pressure. If the 7th prince and the first prince both had such powerful experts, they would be in trouble. Then who are our opponents in the second round of the Crown Prince trial? Chief Steward Zhua asked again. Our first round is against the 9th Prince, the 6th Prince replied. The second round of the Crown Prince trial was a 2-on-1 battle. In the first round there were 17 teams in total. After the Battle of Dragon Luck, the last 5 teams were eliminated, so there were only 12 teams left. Then these 12 teams would fight in pairs, and the winner would take the opponent's Dragon Luck. Phew. After hearing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. The 9th Prince's team wasn't strong, so it wouldn't be a problem to deal with them. You've all worked hard in the Battle of Dragon Luck, so I won't mistreat you. These 10 interspatial rings are distributed according to your Dragon Luck. After the 6th Prince finished speaking, he threw out the interspatial rings one by one. However, to everyone's surprise, the first one to take the interspatial ring wasn't Yang Qi's team, but Yi Xian's. Then it was Gu Jian's and Yang Qi's. The poison which killed someone by mistake, so her Dragon Luck was reset to 0. However, the 6th Prince also gave her a lot of things. The moment Yi Xian received the interspatial ring, he trembled. Not only were there a lot of treasures, but there was also something he desperately wanted. The illusory spirit fruit. The illusory spirit fruit can activate my Eye of Illusion. Yi Xian widened his eyes. The Eye of Illusion was equivalent to an illusion array that could be activated in an instant. It could cause the opponent to fall into an illusion array. Ding. Host has activated the Eye of Illusion. The system notification sounded. Currently, Yi Xian had already activated 2 heavenly eyes, the Eye of Insight and the Eye of Illusion. Although his cultivation level had not increased, his strength had increased. Moreover, as long as he wanted to, he could break through at any time. Alright, the second round of the Crown Prince trial will be held in 3 days. Go and rest. After the 6th Prince finished speaking, he left. Yi Xian did not waste any more words and left immediately. However, this time he did not return to his own room. Instead, he went to the kitchen of the 6th Emperor's mansion to borrow a wild bird. Then he used the Eye of Illusion on the pheasant. Coo coo coo, everything in front of the pheasant's eyes changed. It directly crashed into the wall and kept flapping its wings, as if it had seen something terrifying. The Eye of Illusion is really good. Those who are not strong enough will be easily confused. When the time comes, it will be easy for me to kill the enemy. Yi Xian's lips curled up slightly. He was very much looking forward to the battle in 3 days. Ding. Host has broken through. The current great emperors will seal 75% of the body. 3 days passed by quickly. After 3 days, the 6th Prince led Yi Xian and his team back into the Imperial Palace. This time, the venue of the battle was still in the Secret Realm. When Yi Xian entered the Secret Realm, he saw a huge arena. Beside the arena, there were already many officials of the Sunflame dynasty in the audience. Before Yi Xian arrived, many of the other princes had also arrived. The 6th Prince led Yi Xian to the audience and waited quietly. Not long after, 10 figures appeared at the entrance of the Secret Realm. They were the 7th Prince's team. The 7th Prince's team was only left with 9 people because one of them was accidentally killed by the Poison Witch. However, there were a few people who were all wearing black robes, looking very mysterious. They must be from the Nether Spirit sect. Yi Xian guessed inwardly. If Yi Xian had the Eye of Perception, he would be able to clearly sense the other party's cultivation level. Unfortunately, the Eye of Perception had not been activated yet. Not long after, the 1st Prince's team arrived. There were a few powerful auras in their team, but because they were mixed together, it was impossible to determine who they were. Yi Xian waited for a while more. In the end, all 17 princes arrived. However, many of them were killed. Only a little more than 150 of the original 170 princes were left. At the same time, only 12 princes advanced to the second round. At this time, Eunuch Wu suddenly flew into the arena. Now let's welcome the 12 princes to the arena. Eunuch Wu's voice rang out. Then the 6th prince flew over. In the second round of the Crown Prince trial, each prince would choose 5 people to fight. The order of battle was up to each prince. The winner would receive half of the loser's Dragon Luck. There was a ranking stone tablet beside the arena. The ranking on the tablet would be updated in real time. Because the 6th prince did not know the order of battle, he had the 10 princes of Yi Xian draw lots before he arrived. Yi Xian drew the number 6, so it was the 6th round. Eunuch Wu called the 12 princes over to distribute the number plates. Not long after, the 6th prince returned and secretly distributed the number plates to the 10 princes of Yi Xian. Alright, next up is the first round. The 6th prince versus the 9th prince. Both sides will have one number plate. Eunuch Wu shouted. Once Eunuch Wu called out the number plate, the order of battle could not be changed. The sixth prince's number plate was the poison matriarch. Because she had accidentally killed a person, she did not have any dragon luck. Her opponent was a martial artist at 70% of the physique seal realm. A martial artist at 85% of the physique seal realm versus a martial artist at 70% of the physique seal realm. There was a difference of 3 levels, so there was no suspense in this round. The poison matriarch did not have any dragon luck, but her opponent did. Therefore, the poison matriarch had won this round. If she won, she would receive half of her opponent's dragon luck. If she lost, she would not lose anything. However, it was impossible for her opponent to win. The poison matriarch threw the prince tokens to Eunuch Wu after she went into the arena. Intentional murderer, your dragon luck will be reset to 0. Begin. Eunuch Wu received the 2 prince tokens and announced loudly. There was no suspense in this round. The poison matriarch slapped her opponent out of the arena. Unfortunately, her opponent did not have much dragon luck, but it was better than nothing. Chapter 782. If Xianxia encountered someone with a lot of dragon luck, then he would have profited. If he encountered someone with little dragon luck, then it would be a waste of talent. Thus, the 6th and 9th princes were observing the expressions of their opponents. The 9th prince had never intended to compete for the position of crown prince. All he wanted was dragon luck. They cultivated a special technique from a young age that allowed them to store dragon luck in their bodies and use it when necessary. Most importantly, dragon luck could be used to withstand the Paragon Tribulation. In the second battle, the 6th prince sent out an expert with 75% body seal. His opponent was only at 70% body seal. Furthermore, he suppressed his opponent in terms of cultivation level and won again. The 9th prince was ranked below the top 10 of the 17 princes. It was already very difficult for him to gather 10 people with 70% body seal. Now that he had lost 2 battles in a row, his morale plummeted. In the 3rd battle, the 6th prince won. In the 4th battle, the 6th prince won. In the 5th battle, the 6th prince won. The experts on the 9th prince's side had half of their dragon luck taken away. It was very tragic. In the 6th battle, it was Yixian. When Yixian joined, he was only at 60% body seal. Now he was at 75% body seal. It was not bad. His opponent was only at 70% body seal. Oh, it's this kid. The 6th prince gave him the dragon-patterned golden armor. I remember. I thought the 6th Highness would give the dragon-patterned golden armor to Xianxia. Don't underestimate this kid's strength. He defeated an expert with 85% body seal at the Poison King's Legacy. He seems to be immune to poisons. He's a good seedling. Who knows, he might become a paragon in the future. With the dragon-patterned golden armor, he might be able to. The ministers discussed in low voices. At this time, Yixian was the center of attention. He slowly landed on the arena and looked at his opponent. It was rare for Yixian to have a higher cultivation level than his opponent. I admit defeat. The martial artist with 70% body seal said directly. He couldn't beat Yixian anyway, so he might as well admit defeat early. Hearing this, Eunuch Wu immediately channeled half of his dragon power into Yixian's prince medallion. In the 6th battle, the 9th prince won. The 9th prince's heart turned cold, because in the next 4 battles, his people were all defeated. If the dragon luck of all his subordinates was reduced by half, then the total dragon luck of his prince seal would be reduced by half as well. A 10-win streak was a very good start, and it also boosted the morale of Yixian's 10 players. Next, it was the 3rd prince against the 11th prince. Both sides won 5 battles, but the 3rd prince still earned some dragon fate. Then it was the 4th prince against the 8th prince. The 4th prince's team had lost 1 person in the Battle of Draconic Luck, so they only had 9 people left. However, the 8th prince wasn't a match for him at all, and he was defeated 9 times in a row. Now there were already 6 princes fighting, so there were only 6 left. Under normal circumstances, the older prince would have an advantage, so the 1st prince defeated the 5th prince with a score of 9 wins and 1 loss. The 2nd prince and the 7th prince had both won 10 matches in a row. Just like that, the first round was over. It was the crown prince, the 2nd prince, the 3rd prince, the 4th prince, the 6th prince and the 7th prince. Only the 5th prince was unlucky enough to meet the 1st prince. The rankings were updated. After 1 round, the 1st prince actually overtook the 7th prince and is now ranked 2nd. The 6th prince and the 4th prince are ranked 3rd and 4th respectively. The officials were also not satisfied. Although some of the battles were forfeited, some of the people with similar strength still fought very well. Now it was time to decide the order of the 2nd round. Eunuch Wu would pick the order of the battles. In the 2nd round, the 1st prince will fight the 4th prince, the second prince will fight the sixth prince, and the third prince will fight the seventh prince. Eunuch Wu announced the order of the battles. After hearing the order of the battles, many people's expressions changed, and the fourth prince looked the worst. The fourth prince's team was the weakest of the four princes. The first prince's team was very strong, and there was a person who was suspected to be a 100% physique sealing expert. Although he could admit defeat, he would still have to give half of his dragon luck to the other side. In the first battle of the second round, the first prince would fight the fourth prince. The fourth prince was obviously at a disadvantage, so it depended on the order of the battle. Forfeit. 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 The fourth prince looked at the first prince, who had a calm expression on his face. Every time the first prince yelled out, "Admit defeat," his heart would tremble violently. He was originally a strong contender for the position of crown prince, but now it seemed that there was no suspense. He only wanted to obtain some dragon fate to resist the supreme tribulation. After this round, the first prince overtook the seventh prince and took first place. Next, it was the second prince's turn to face the sixth prince. Second brother has two people with 85% physique sealing realm. The sixth prince hoped that his team would encounter the two people with 85% physique sealing realm so that he could plunder a large amount of their dragon fate. The first battle he sent was Yi Xian. At this time Yi Xian had already jumped onto the arena. His opponent was one of the two people with 85% physique sealing realm. The second prince wanted to get a good start and raise morale so that he would not lose too badly. Damn it, I can't believe I met him. The gray-robed middle-aged man's face was gloomy because he had heard that Yi Xian had obtained a set of dragon-patterned golden armor. Since he practiced swordsmanship, it would be extremely difficult for him to break the defense of the dragon-patterned golden armor without using his dragon fate. The prince token had been given to Eunuch Wu. If he wanted to win, he had to knock Yi Xian out of the arena. If he lost, he would have to give Yi Xian half of his dragon fate. Not going to forfeit? Yi Xian thought to himself when he saw his opponent's expression. Let's begin, Eunuch Wu said. As soon as he finished speaking, the gray-robed middle-aged man attacked Yi Xian first. At the same time, Yi Xian gripped his spiritual rhino sword tightly. Four directions annihilation. A slash pierced through the air and collided with his opponent's attack. Boom. A shockwave swept across the arena. Smoke and dust filled the arena and instantly enveloped both of them. However, Yi Xian, who had the Eye of Revelation, could accurately locate his opponent's position. Four directions annihilation. Eye of Illusion. This time Yi Xian directly used a trump card. When the gray-robed middle-aged man found out that his opponent was Yi Xian, he was actually very nervous. His willpower was not strong enough, so Yi Xian immediately found a flaw in his state of mind. The next moment he saw a huge figure rising from the smoke and dust. What? The gray-robed middle-aged man was shocked. Yi Xian was clearly a human. How could he turn into a giant dragon? He could not help but raise his head and look at the huge head that popped out of the smoke and dust. His heart trembled violently. Chapter 783. However, just as the gray-robed middle-aged man was in shock, a slash tore through the air and directly struck his chest. Crack. Amidst a clear sound, the gray-clothed middle-aged man was blasted flying, and he fell outside the arena. There was an anti-flight array on the arena. Due to his absent-mindedness, the middle-aged man was sent flying by Yi Xian's joint attack and ultimately defeated. Seeing this, Eunuch Wu raised his eyebrows. He felt that something was wrong with the middle-aged man, but he did not ask. Instead he announced, "The sixth prince wins." He directly channeled half of the middle-aged man's chi to Yi Xian, then threw the prince token back to Yi Xian. What's going on? Why didn't he block or dodge? This is strange. Even if his eyes are blocked by the smoke, he should be able to block it with his perception. That brat is strange. I don't know what method he used to make his opponent absent-minded for a moment. The ministers began to discuss among themselves. It was not only them. No one present could understand what was going on. The middle-aged man in gray who was sent flying out of the arena had already returned to normal. He looked at Yi Xian in the arena and asked in shock, "An illusion array. When did you set up that illusion array?" "It's a secret." Yi Xian smiled and walked down the arena. The Eye of Illusion was his trump card. However, it was a trump card that he could show to others. After all, as long as he matched it with the Eye of Revelation, he could use it silently when he saw his opponent's eyes. The middle-aged man in gray's words shocked the surrounding people. They had the same doubts as the middle-aged man in gray. When did Yi Xian set up the illusion array? Could it be when the smoke was rising? Ah, good. Although the sixth prince did not see it, he did not pay much attention to it and applauded. Now Xianxia's strength was enough to intimidate others. He had the strength to kill an 85% physique ceiling expert. This meant that he could fight an 85% physique ceiling expert. The sixth prince thought to himself that he had not misjudged. He was thinking that if Xian was nurtured, he would definitely become an invincible half-step supreme being. His chances of becoming a supreme being in the future were very high. Next round. Eunuch Wu did not waste any time and immediately shouted. Xian was the first match and Xianxia was the next. Xianxia was a 90% body sealing expert, and he also had the ability to challenge people above his level. Therefore his opponent directly admitted defeat, and Xianxia took half of his opponent's dragon luck. There weren't many experts under the second prince's command. Soon this round was over. The sixth prince finished with 8 wins and 2 losses. He didn't lose a lot of dragon luck in those 2 losses, so he also made a lot of money. The third round was between the third prince and the seventh prince. The seventh prince's current team was comparable to the first prince's, so the third prince was also not a match for the seventh prince. He lost 9 battles in a row. In the end, the seventh prince was still ranked first, the first prince was ranked second, and the third prince was ranked third. Where did the experts in the first prince and the seventh prince's teams come from? The sixth prince could not figure it out. The strongest expert he found was only 85% body sealing expert, while the first prince and the seventh prince's teams had experts who were suspected to be at 100% body sealing expert. Even if they each found a high-grade inheritance, the gap was too big. Now my trump card is Xian, but Xian's realm is too low. Even with the dragon pattern golden armor, I'm afraid he can only fight against a 95% body sealing expert. Moreover, my dragon luck is the lowest. The seventh prince's strength is not superior to mine, and the first prince is even more unfathomable. I'm afraid I'll be squeezed out this time. Although the sixth prince was unwilling to accept it, it was the truth. However, he could still give it a try. The top 3 have been decided. The third round of the Crown Prince trial will be held in 7 days. Eunuch Wu announced loudly. Then the princes led their own teams and left. Xian was led back to the sixth prince's residence by the sixth prince. Everyone, what do you think of the current situation? The sixth prince asked after they returned to the residence. Xian and the others looked at each other. Then Chief Steward Zhua said, "Forgive me for being blunt, but I'm afraid that in this Crown Prince trial you are. It's hopeless." The sixth prince frowned. Xian also felt that it would be difficult for the sixth prince to produce. Previously, he'd understood the third stage of the Crown Prince's trial and discovered that the third stage of the Crown Prince's trial was both a test of strength and strategy. Of course, luck was also important. In the second round of the Crown Prince trial, only the top 3 would advance to the third round. The third round of the Crown Prince trial was actually a sandbox game. In the beginning, it was a tripartite situation. Each side had 2 checkpoints and a main city, and each side's prince had to guard the main city. This was because once the main city was conquered, their side would immediately lose. The top 3 in terms of dragon luck were the seventh prince, the first prince, and the sixth prince. Each side had 2 checkpoints. For example, the sixth prince's 2 checkpoints were adjacent to each other. At the same time, these 2 checkpoints were adjacent to the seventh prince's and the first prince's checkpoints. To put it simply, the sixth prince had 2 checkpoints. One of them had to fight the seventh prince's checkpoint, while the other had to fight the first prince's checkpoint. The sixth prince had to give orders to both checkpoints at the same time. As for the 3 princes, they could only leave the main city and join the battle when one of their checkpoints was conquered or when the enemy's checkpoint was conquered. Every main city started with 1,500 soldiers. At the same time, there were some resource points in the sandbox game. As long as one occupied these resource points, they would instantly gain 500 soldiers. The last remaining prince would become the crown prince. As for the dragon luck in the first 2 rounds, there were many ways to use it in the third round. For example, they could directly use dragon luck to exchange for soldiers. When the checkpoints were under attack, they could also use dragon luck to control the arrow towers to kill the enemy. The sixth prince's 10 subordinates all had dragon luck. In the third round, the sixth prince would obtain the total dragon luck of all 10 of them. At the same time, Xian's 10 subordinates' dragon luck would not decrease and could still be used. This was the final round of the Crown Prince trial. Strength was indeed important, but luck and strategy were also very important. Even a 100% physique ceiling expert might not necessarily be able to lead a battle. However, the sixth prince's team was already weaker than the first prince and the seventh prince. He could only rely on the dragon luck that he had accumulated in his early years. Forget it, I will succeed or die trying. If we are comparing dragon luck, I will definitely be the one with the most. The sixth prince thought to himself. Chapter 784. Go back and rest, the sixth prince said after a moment of thought. Yes, your highness. Yi Xian and the others nodded respectfully. However, the sixth prince called out again, Yi Xian, you stay. Hearing this, Yi Xian's footsteps paused. After Chief Steward Zhua and the others left, the sixth prince asked, Yi Xian, if I give you more cultivation resources, will you be able to break through in 7 days? As long as I have enough, I can definitely break through. Yi Xian's eyes lit up as he said solemnly. He was currently at 75% body seal. If he broke through again, he would be at 80% body seal. At that time, he would not be afraid even if he faced an expert at 100% body seal. Alright, this interspatial ring is for you. You must break through. The sixth prince threw an interspatial ring to Yi Xian without saying anything else. This time he decided to bet on Yi Xian. Of course, he had already ordered the dragon pattern golden armor to be made for Xianxia as well. Yi Xian caught the interspatial ring and looked inside. His heart trembled. These things were enough for him to break through to 80% body seal. Thank you, your highness. Yi Xian hurriedly thanked him. In fact, he wanted to say something to the sixth prince. As long as the sixth prince was willing to give him all his wealth, he would definitely help the sixth prince become the crown prince. You should go and rest too, the sixth prince said. Yes, your highness. Yi Xian answered and left. After he left, the sixth prince also paused for a moment before leaving the sixth prince's residence. This time he would either succeed or die trying, so he wanted to borrow some draconic luck from the other princes. In fact, he had another plan in mind, which was to use the draconic luck to pass the supremacy tribulation. He was already at 100% body seal. With the dragon-patterned golden armor and draconic luck, his chances of passing the tribulation were not low. However, if he failed to pass the tribulation, then he would be struck and his soul would scatter. With his talent, he would definitely be able to break through to the supremacy realm in the future, so he did not dare to take the risk. Of course, if he succeeded and became a supremacy, the position of crown prince would definitely be his. After being rewarded by the sixth prince, Yi Xian hurriedly returned to his room. Ding! The host has broken through. The current seal of the great emperor's will is at 80%. The moment he closed the door, Yi Xian's aura suddenly surged. He had broken through. The reward from the sixth prince was enough for a person to reach 90% of the body sealing realm. It was very precious. But to Yi Xian, these things could only go from 75% to 80%. I've broken through. Now, I don't have to be afraid of those experts who seem to have reached 100%. If I were to comprehend sword intent, I would be invincible among half-supremes. Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the bed and immersed his mind into the devouring space. Currently, he was still unable to specifically devour the sword will, so he would refine the sword will on his own, but every time he would fail. One had to admit that sword god Bahuang was really lucky to actually be able to comprehend sword intent. He stayed in his room for 7 days, but he still couldn't refine the sword will. He gave up. When the 7 days were up, he hurriedly left the residence and went to the training field. The sixth prince and the others were already there. When the sixth prince saw Yi Xian, his eyes lit up. Good. You didn't disappoint me. Yi Xian smiled and walked over. Today was the last part of the crown prince's trial by fire. The 3 princes were staking everything on this one throw. They were determined to win the position of crown prince. During the 7 days, Xianxia and Poison, which had both made breakthroughs. Xianxia broke through to 95% of the body sealing realm. At the same time, the sixth prince rewarded him with a set of dragon-patterned golden armor. Poison, which had obtained the legacy of the Poison King, and with the help of the sixth prince, she smoothly broke through to 90% of the body sealing realm. As for the others, they had also improved their strength. Let's go. The sixth prince led the 10 people into the palace. The ministers had already gathered, and the other princes had also arrived. TSK. First prince, sixth prince, seventh prince. Who will become crown prince? I think the mysterious first prince will win. I think the seventh prince will win. The ministers were still discussing in private. Yi Xian looked at the hundreds of ministers and imperial experts of the Sunflame's sacred dynasty and couldn't help but feel nervous. As long as he helped the sixth prince become crown prince, he wouldn't have to worry about the resources he needed to break through to the supremacy level. However, the other 2 princes weren't weak either. It wouldn't be easy to have the last laugh. After the sixth prince arrived, he stood at the side with Yi Xian and the others. He began to size up the first prince and seventh prince's teams. As expected, the auras of the 2 teams were much stronger than before. It seemed that they had also received a lot of rewards. After a while, Eunuch Wu appeared. Not only that, but there was also a middle-aged man in golden clothes behind him. He wore a golden crown. This man was the current emperor, the sixth prince's father. When he appeared, everyone in the hall couldn't help but look solemn. At the same time, they felt a huge pressure descend. A supremacy expert. The emperor of the Sun Flame's sacred dynasty is a supremacy expert. Yi Xian was shocked in his heart. However, it made sense when he thought about it. Even the sixth prince had achieved 100% of the physique sealing realm. The emperor was a supremacy expert. Yi Xian estimated that if all the experts in the hall besieged the Sun Flame's sacred dynasty emperor, they wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. He was an expert with a supremacy golden body. In a battle between supremacy experts, unless one had a powerful supremacy martial technique or comprehended the sword intent, it was very difficult to die. Yi Xian looked at the Sun Flame's sacred dynasty emperor with flickering eyes. If he had refined the sword intent, his attack would be able to hurt a real supremacy with a supremacy golden body. Unfortunately, he hadn't. Are the three of you ready? The Sun Flame's sacred dynasty emperor looked at the three princes. We are ready. The sixth prince and the other two princes said in unison. The rules of the siege phase are the same as the first phase. Intentional killing is not allowed. If the prince token is broken, you will be teleported out of the secret realm. At the same time, the three princes can use the prince token to command their subordinates at any time. Eunuch Wu said. Then the first prince, sixth prince and seventh prince's teams followed Eunuch Wu into the secret realm. The location where Yi Xian and the others landed was different from before. This time they appeared outside a city wall. This is your main city. There is a soaring dragon pillar in the main hall behind this main city. If the soaring dragon pillar is destroyed, Your Highness, you will be eliminated. Similarly, there is a soaring dragon pillar in each of the two checkpoints. If these two soaring dragon pillars are destroyed, the gate of the checkpoint cannot be closed. At the same time, Your Highness can leave the main city. Eunuch Wu said and handed over 11 maps. This is the map of the siege phase. Your Highness, you have 1 day to adapt to the environment. Tomorrow you will wait for the order to start the battle. Only then can you send your troops and leave the territory to explore the resource points. Chapter 785. After hearing Eunuch Wu's words, the sixth prince took over the siege map. On the map were 9 cities, 3 main cities, 6 checkpoints and other locations. The checkpoint on the left is for the first prince and the one on the right is for the seventh prince. The sixth prince glanced at the map. Rumble. At this moment, the gates of the main city suddenly opened, and an orderly army walked out. When the crowd saw this orderly army, they trembled all over. Wolf Fang Cavalry? The sixth prince exclaimed in surprise. Eunuch Wu nodded and said, That's right. The Wolf Fang Cavalry is involved in this siege. Each side has 1,500 Wolf Fang Cavalry with 80% physique ceiling, 15 deputy generals with 90% physique ceiling, and 3 golden armored generals with 100% physique ceiling. The sixth prince was astonished. He remembered that the Sun Yin Emperor had only used a few giant stone golems to attack the city. Yi Xian also looked on in astonishment. The Sun Flame Emperor dynasty was indeed powerful. These puppets can be controlled by the prince's seal and prince's token. Your Highness, please distribute them as you wish. These are the rules. Good luck, Your Highness. After Eunuch Wu finished speaking, he directly entered the secret realm entrance. In the next moment, the secret realm entrance disappeared without a trace. In the secret realm, one's senses were greatly reduced. At the same time, one couldn't fly or shrink the ground, so this was Yi Xian's home ground. Alright, I'll mark some locations here. You guys check them. The sixth prince didn't delay. He marked over 100 locations on the map because he could use the prince's seal to control Yi Xian and the others. When the time came, he would have to command. After Yi Xian and the others marked their locations, the sixth prince said, Poison Matriarch, lead Qiao Bao's group and 500 Wolf Fang cavalry to the checkpoint on the left. Set up a poison array at the city gate. Yes. Poison Matriarch nodded. She immediately used the prince's token to control a golden armored general, 5 deputy generals, and 500 Wolf Fang cavalry to leave. Qiao Bao was only at 85% physique ceiling, and the other 3 weren't strong, so they were assigned together. When necessary, they had to use their draconic luck to control the defense tower and counterattack. Fortunately, after the poison which obtained the Poison King's inheritance, her influence was not lower than that of Chief Zhua and the others who had 90% of their bodies sealed. Yangqi Yi Xian, the 2 of you will lead the remaining people and a squad to the right checkpoint. Wait for further instructions. the sixth prince ordered. When Yi Xian heard this, he immediately asked, "Your Highness, are you going to side with the seventh prince? The first prince is mysterious, and his influence is not any weaker than the seventh prince's. I don't think he will take the initiative to attack. He should first look for those resource points, replenish his forces, and then attack a city in one fell swoop." The sixth prince replied. "So, when the time comes, who's going to go explore the resource sites?" Resource points were extremely important for this siege. As long as they occupied a resource point, they would immediately gain 500 Wolf Fang cavalrymen. If they occupied a few more, they would be able to expand their advantage. There are a total of 10 resource points on the map. If we can obtain all of them, we will instantly gain an additional 5,000 soldiers. The sixth prince understood the importance of resource points, but he couldn't choose anyone to explore them. Hence he asked, "Resource points can be reclaimed every day after midnight. There will be a huge battle in the middle tomorrow. How do you guys think we should distribute the resources?" The 5 of them exchanged glances. Then Yi Xian took the initiative to step forward and said, "The perception in the secret realm is greatly reduced, but I have a special method to find these resource points quickly. When the battle starts tomorrow, I will go." "That's right. At the beginning we usually occupy the resource points first." "I will go too," Xianxia said. Then the skinny old man added, "My movement technique is not bad either. Count me in." "Alright, tomorrow the 3 of you will go explore the resource points. Chief Zhuo and Gu Jian, you guys will guard the right checkpoint." The sixth prince nodded. Unfortunately, his original body couldn't leave the main city after the battle started. Now that the battle had not started, he couldn't leave his territory. He could only move between the main city and the checkpoints. Thus Yi Xian and the rest led a squad and left. It was only an hour's journey from the main city to the right checkpoint. Very soon Yi Xian and the rest arrived at the right checkpoint. The right checkpoint was the same as the sixth prince's main city. It only had one wall and one palace. Those are the defensive arrow towers. As long as you use your dragon luck, you can control them to attack the enemy. However, it will consume a large amount of dragon luck, Xianxia said as he looked at the 2 arrow towers on the left and right sides of the 1,000-meter-long wall. "I wonder how powerful these 2 arrow towers are. They should be able to kill ordinary Wolf Fang cavalry," Chief Zhuo couldn't help but say. Everyone led the army into the right checkpoint and looked around to get used to the environment. As the battle had not started yet, there was a special formation on the right checkpoint that prevented people from jumping down. At the same time, the gate couldn't be opened. Thus, Yi Xian and the rest couldn't leave the city to investigate. It wasn't easy to attack a city. They had to attack from the city gate. Thus, everyone estimated that the 3rd stage of the trial would take a few days. In any case, it wouldn't end so easily. Yi Xian also got used to the environment and waited patiently. The left checkpoint had Poison Matriarch's poison formation. It wouldn't be easy to break it. After all, Poison King was once an expert with 100% body seal. He was known as the invincible half-supreme. His poison formation was very difficult to break unless one was a supreme. This was why the sixth prince was so confident. A day's time passed very quickly. Yi Xian stood guard in front of the city gate with Xianxia by his side. In a while the battle would begin. When the time came, he would have to take the lead and occupy the resource points first. "Captain Yang, the 2 of you should occupy the 3 resource points nearby first," Yi Xian said. "What about you?" Xianxia frowned. "I'm going to take a look at the 7th prince's side. Although the perception in the secret realm is greatly reduced, I have a special method. If I can reduce the 7th prince's men, then the threat will be greatly reduced." Yi Xian said. "The 7th prince only has 9 men, but they might send experts directly. Can you handle it?" Xianxia asked. "Even with 100% body seal, I'm confident. Every resource point we occupy means an additional 500 soldiers. It's a huge advantage," Yi Xian replied. The cities were allocated according to order. There were a total of 10 resource points in this central territory. Each side had 3, but the 7th prince had the first, so he had 4. Yi Xian's target was the 4th resource point. "Be careful," Xianxia reminded him. Chapter 786. Yes. Although we want to snatch the resource points after the battle, we have to be careful of the enemy gathering their forces to break through the checkpoint, Yi Xian reminded. Xianxia said solemnly, "Don't worry. The 6th prince is worried, so he used his dragon luck to exchange for 2 more platoons. They're on their way." 2 platoons? Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. 1 platoon consisted of 500 Wolf Fang cavalry, 5 deputy generals, and 1 golden armored general. The golden armor general had dragon-patterned golden armor, and his strength had reached 100% of the physique seal realm. Each checkpoint was guarded by 2 platoons so they would not be defeated directly. Now, the 6th prince had 2,500 Wolf-Fang cavalry, but he did not know how many Wolf-Fang cavalry the crown prince and 7th prince had exchanged their dragon luck for. Xianxia, the battle is about to begin. Get ready. At this moment, the 6th prince's voice came from Xian's prince token. Yes. Xian and the other 2 replied. They could use the prince token to obtain the resources from the 6th prince. At the same time, the prince token was very important in this checkpoint, as it could also snatch the dragon luck of others. Once the prince token was broken, the person would be directly sent out of the secret realm. With fewer people, there would be fewer people controlling the arrow towers, which would weaken the enemy's strength. Therefore, the 6th prince ordered that except for poison which, no one was allowed to leave the left side of the city. After all, Cao Bao and the others were not strong, and were not even as strong as the deputy general. They could just obediently control the arrow towers and the Wolf-Fang cavalry. The time has come. Let the siege begin. Suddenly, a loud sound came from the sky. Hearing this, Xian directly opened the city gates. Captain Yang, I'll be leaving first. After saying that, Xian directly dashed in a certain direction. Now it was a race against time. Whoever occupied the resource points first would have the advantage. Yang Qi looked in the direction Xian left and praised Xian in his heart. That was because Xian's speed was not slower than his 95% of the physique seal realm. TSK, this kid is indeed extraordinary. The skinny old man laughed. After leaving the right checkpoint, Xian headed straight for the 7th prince's territory. He traveled at full speed, hoping to find a resource point first. If they occupied the resource points first, the main city would immediately receive 500 Wolf-Fang cavalrymen. Therefore they would take as much as they could. My perception will be greatly reduced in the secret realm, but I have the Eye of Revelation. I have the greatest advantage. Xian sprinted over. The 3 main cities were actually not far from each other. It would only take a few hours to reach the neighboring checkpoint. However, the map that Eunuch Wu gave him only indicated the approximate location of the resource points, not the specific ones. But for Xian this was not a difficult task. If Yang Qi takes the 3 closest resource points and I take 1 more, then we'll have 500 more soldiers. With that thought in mind, Xian summoned his dragon-marked golden armor. This was the first time he had used the dragon-patterned golden armor since he entered the imperial capital. Although he had the Eye of Revelation, it was better to wear it just in case. He ran for more than an hour. Along the way he constantly used the Eye of Revelation to scan the surroundings. He discovered that there were still quasi-supreme sacred beasts around. This made him secretly wish that it would be great if he had the Eye of Control. He could directly control these quasi-supreme sacred beasts. At this moment, Xian suddenly saw a place. He immediately stopped in his tracks and rushed in that direction. It was a cave. It looked ordinary, but Xian's Eye of Revelation saw the flow of spiritual energy. He looked at the map copied by the devouring system and realized that this was the area where the 7th prince's additional resource point was. Is my luck that good? Xian was a little suspicious and immediately rushed over. He cautiously entered the cave and saw a dragon luck pillar. It's indeed a resource point. Xian raised his eyebrows and hurriedly absorbed the dragon luck on the dragon luck pillar. Then a platform beside the dragon luck pillar lit up with a blue light. The 7th prince's light was red, the 1st prince's light was white, and the blue light represented the 6th prince. Successfully occupied. 6th prince, I have occupied a resource point number 4. Xian immediately used the prince token to obtain the resource point from the 6th prince. Good. The 6th prince immediately replied. However, in the next moment he realized that the 3 resource points closest to him were marked as number 8, number 9, and number 10. Xian, you went to the 7th prince's side? The 6th prince asked in shock. Yes, I occupied it. Xian nodded. Now that he had occupied this resource point, it would not be occupied again today. At this moment, 500 Wolf-Fang cavalrymen had respawned in the 6th prince's main city. The resource point would respawn at midnight and he could continue to occupy it. Then another 500 Wolf-Fang cavalrymen would appear. Originally, the 6th prince's main city only had 500 Wolf-Fang cavalrymen, but now another 500 had appeared, making it a total of 1,000 Wolf-Fang cavalrymen. Well done. Be careful when you come back. The 6th prince reminded him. Understood. Xian nodded. Although that was his answer, he did not want to leave just like that. Since number 4 was near the fourth prince's side, the fourth prince would definitely send someone over first. Yi Xian guessed that someone was already searching for resource point number 4. It was not easy to find things in the secret territory. Yi Xian was lucky that he had the Eye of Revelation. Otherwise he would not have found it so easily. Tsk. Let me use the Poison King's myriad poisons god-killing formation. Yi Xian grinned. Although he had given the Poison King's legacy to the poison which, he had already copied it into the devouring system, so he knew how to use it too. A few seconds later the cave was filled with danger. If he was not careful, even a 90% body seal expert would die. After leaving the cave, Yi Xian hid around the cave. Instead of going to the next resource point, he might as well wait for the 7th prince to lose some people first. The 7th prince already had one less person. If he lost another person, there would only be 8 people left. With so few people, even if they had a large army, they would not be able to control it. Yi Xian squatted on the ground. 10 minutes later, a figure entered his line of sight. He's here. Yi Xian held the Wolf Fang sword, his eyes gleaming. This figure was very fast. He was at least 90% body seal expert. He rushed into the cave. At that moment Yi Xian directly went into hiding. What? A cry of surprise came from the depths of the cave. It was unknown whether the other party had discovered that the resource point had been occupied or that they had discovered the poison formation. Kill? After hearing this, Yi Xian charged in without hesitation. He was the one who had set up the poison formation. Fighting in it would increase his strength in disguise. Not good. When the people inside heard the commotion, they immediately shouted in a low voice. At this moment, Yi Xian had already rushed in wearing the dragon-patterned golden armor. Boom. Chapter 787. Dressed in black, you must be from the ghost cult, right? Yi Xian asked subconsciously. He remembered that the 7th prince had 3 black-robed subordinates. One was a woman suspected to be at 100% physique ceiling, while the other 2 were at 95% physique ceiling. Hearing Yi Xian's question, the man's body uncontrollably moved. Although he didn't answer directly, his body answered Yi Xian's question. You're courting death. The black-robed man roared as he charged toward Yi Xian. He recognized the dragon-patterned golden armor, but Yi Xian's prince's medallion was inside the armor. It would be difficult to defeat Yi Xian. Therefore he had no choice but to force his way through. Haha, if you want to pass through, you have to pay the toll. Yi Xian laughed as he charged forward. The cave was filled with colorless and odorless poisonous fog. His opponent was already poisoned, but even if he wasn't, Yi Xian still had a way to deal with him. Wolf Fang charge. Yi Xian stabbed out with his Wolf Fang sword, and a giant wolf head pounced forward. Netherworld stab. The black-robed man's expression darkened. He extended an arm from under his robes and stabbed at the giant wolf head. Poof. The giant wolf head was pierced, and it instantly dissipated. Yi Xian was slightly surprised. Like Xianxia, this person was only at 95% physique ceiling, but he was much stronger than Xianxia. However, this was still not enough to deal with Yi Xian. As the giant wolf head dissipated, a sharp circular slash tore through the air and sliced open the black-robed man's shoulder, causing blood to spurt out. The black-robed man's expression turned grave. Fortunately, he reacted quickly, or this attack would have sliced off his entire arm. However, the worst was yet to come. The black-robed man sensed that something was wrong. He glanced at his shoulder and saw that the blood had already coagulated. Not only that, but the muscles in his shoulder were completely paralyzed. Poison? The black-robed man finally reacted, but it was too late. The slow-acting poison had already been activated the moment he was injured, paralyzing his entire body. It's too late. Wolf Fang charge. Yi Xian used his draconic fortune to stab forward once more. The giant wolf head bit down on the black-robed man, and in the next instant, he appeared beside the black-robed man, flicking and sweeping his sword. The prince medallion in front of the black-robed man's chest was taken out. At the same time, his left arm, which was wearing an interspatial ring, was cut off. Thank you for your dragon luck. Yi Xian absorbed a large amount of draconic luck from the prince token and crushed it. No. The black-robed man's eyes widened. How could he have imagined that in less than 2 hours after the start of the battle, he would be eliminated by crushing the prince's order? Unfortunately, that was the truth. Hua. The black-robed man transformed into a beam of white light and flew out of the secret realm. The 7th prince had lost one more person, leaving him with only 8 people. Moreover, this black-robed man was at 95% body ceiling. The 7th prince had suffered a great loss this time. Yi Xian hurried over and put away his universe ring. Sure enough, there were a lot of natural treasures inside. However, there was no information about the ghost cult inside. Xian was sure that the black-robed man was from the ghost cult. No matter how strong the ghost cult is, they probably can't produce a supreme being expert. That's why the Sunflame's sacred dynasty's emperor might know about it, but he didn't reveal it. Xian guessed in his heart. Then he activated the prince medallion and said, "Sixth prince, I sent a 95% body sealing expert out of the secret realm." What? Really? The sixth prince exclaimed. Okay, I'll go to resource point number 3 now, Xian said. Okay, be careful. The sixth prince was a little agitated. A 95% body sealing expert was actually sent out of the secret realm by Xian. Not only that, Xian even occupied resource point number 4. This was beyond the sixth prince's expectations. After leaving the cave, Xian looked at the map and then rushed to resource point number 3, which was the closest to him. Resource point number 4, which was the furthest away, had sent a 95% body sealing expert. This meant that resource point number 3 was probably not the black-robed woman who was suspected to have completed her physique sealing. Xian rushed for more than 10 minutes. With the help of the Eye of Revelation, he quickly found resource point number 3. Unfortunately, resource point number 3 had already been occupied. The other party had already left. However, this did not matter because Xian was only there to scout. He would memorize the way to resource point number 3 and come back to occupy it after midnight. Following that, he headed towards resource point number 2. As expected, resource point number 2 was already occupied. Then Xian went to resource point number 1. Resource points number 1, number 2, and number 3 were all occupied. However, this was within Xian's expectations. This time he was here to scout. He would memorize the location of the resource points so that it would be easier to find them next time. Just as Xian was about to go back, the prince medallion in his arms suddenly lit up. The sixth prince's anxious voice came from it. Xian, this is bad. You've been eliminated. What? Xian was shocked. Didn't he go with Xianxia to occupy the 3 resource points nearby? How did he suddenly get eliminated? It's the first prince's men. He invaded our territory, but he was eliminated after occupying the resource points, the sixth prince said. Xian frowned. He thought to himself, it's 90% physique sealing and his movement technique is amazing. To be able to eliminate him, it's at least 95% physique sealing, or even 100% physique sealing. If the first prince sent out 100% physique sealing right from the start, the tempo would be too fast. Then what should I do now? Xian asked. You go back first and help Poison Witch. I'm afraid the first prince will attack directly, the sixth prince said. All right. At that moment, Xian directly left and charged towards his own territory. 3 hours had already passed and all 10 resource points were probably occupied. Although it was unknown how many resource points the first prince and the seventh prince had, they ended up with 4. 4 resource points could instantly increase the sixth prince's army by 2,000. At this time, the sixth prince had already divided the 2,000 soldiers into 2 groups to guard the 2 front teeth on the left and right sides. There were now 2,000 Wolf Fang cavalry, 10 deputy generals, and 2 generals in golden armor on each side. Xian couldn't help but admire the Sunflame's sacred dynasty. If so many Wolf Fang cavalry were to be deployed on the battlefield, it would be a terrifying battle force. After all, the Wolf Fang cavalry could be reorganized. More than an hour later, Xian returned to the left side of the checkpoint to help Poison Witch. In this situation, it was best to observe the situation first. It was best not to act rashly. The black-robed man that Xian sent out of the secret realm didn't have time to inform the seventh prince. The seventh prince only knew that he had been eliminated, but not by whom. However, Xian guessed that the seventh prince would assume that it was the first prince. After all, there weren't many experts on the sixth prince's side. Unless the seventh prince sent someone to the 4th resource point because of the blue light. Xian guarded the left side of the checkpoint and waited for a few hours. Chapter 788. In another 2 hours the resource points would respawn. By then, whoever obtained a resource point would instantly gain a large number of troops. However, the neutral zone was too dangerous right now. The sixth prince did not know if someone was lurking around his 3 resource points. Sixth prince, this time Captain Yang and I will go. We both have the dragon pattern golden armor, so it won't be easy for us to be eliminated. Xian replied. Alright, then you go to number 8 and Xianxia go to number 10. Once you've occupied number 9 we'll regroup immediately. The sixth prince replied. This time he chose to be more conservative. He only wanted to occupy 3 resource points, Immediately Yi Xian quickly left the left checkpoint, while Yang Qi left the right checkpoint. In fact, Yi Xian hoped that someone was lurking around number 8 resource point. That way he would be able to find them first and send them out of the secret realm. Soon he arrived at resource point number 8. Just as he expected, there was a person waiting for him here. There's still half an hour before the resource points respawn. Let me deal with you first. Yi Xian did not say anything and quietly sneaked over. Just now, he was eliminated at number 8 resource point, so this person was very likely to be the one who was eliminated. Yi Xian used the darkness to slowly approach. When he was only a kilometer away, he suddenly attacked. Draconic Fortune. Wolf Tooth Rush. To be safe, Yi Xian blessed his opponent with Draconic Luck. With this attack and a sneak attack, he would definitely be able to catch his opponent off guard. Boom, boom, boom. The giant wolf head smashed through a large number of trees and bit at his opponent. That person was shocked, but before he could react, he was bitten by the giant wolf head. Yi Xian instantly rushed out and slashed with his wolf tooth sword. Swish. The black-clothed person's arm was directly chopped off. His expression darkened as he forcibly dispersed the wolf tooth rush with Draconic Luck. Retreat. The black-clothed person did not care about his severed arm and immediately turned to leave. Yi Xian quickly rushed over, took the black-clothed person's ring of cosmos and devoured it, then quickly chased after him. You want to leave? Did you ask for my permission? Yi Xian roared as he madly attacked. Each of his attacks was blessed with Draconic Luck. Damn it. The black-clothed man cursed angrily because he couldn't even see Yi Xian's shadow. However, he could sense that Yi Xian was only 80% body seal. Even he did not expect that someone with an 80% body seal would be able to defeat someone with a 95% body seal. He's so fast, but it doesn't sound like Yang Qi. Who could it be? The black-garbed man had no idea what was going on. However, he realized that Yi Xian was actually faster than him. Most importantly, Yi Xian's attacks were extremely ferocious, and he had no choice but to use his Draconic Luck to block them. Boom, boom, boom. Their true qi collided and countless trees were broken. However, just as Yi Xian was about to catch up to him, he suddenly heard a series of noises. This was the Wolf Fang cavalry. What a guy, he actually brought out quite a few Wolf Fang cavalry. Yi Xian's heart trembled. He didn't know if the other party had brought out a saber deputy or a golden armored general. If there was a golden armored general, then it would be troublesome. So what if there is a golden armored general? I also have the dragon pattern golden armor. Even if I can't beat him, I can still escape. Yi Xian sneered in his heart and continued to chase. Rumble. Hundreds of Wolf Fang cavalry appeared, and at the same time, 2 saber deputies with 90% body seal appeared. The black-clothed man joined forces with these puppets to counterattack Yi Xian. What a joke. In front of absolute strength, these are all decorations. Yi Xian roared in his heart and attacked crazily. Draconic Luck. Firmament Splitter. The Firmament Splitter supported by Draconic Luck was extremely powerful. One strike could split the armor of the Wolf Fang cavalry in half. Even the saber deputies couldn't withstand it and could only be sent flying. This time, the black-clothed man had brought 300 Wolf Fang cavalry and 2 saber deputies. He originally thought that he could take down a resource point, but unexpectedly he encountered Yi Xian. It's him. At this moment, the black-clothed man finally realized who was chasing him. It was Yi Xian, who was rewarded with the dragon pattern golden armor by the 6th prince. What a joke. With the dragon pattern golden armor, even if Yi Xian just stood there and let the Wolf Fang cavalry attack him, they probably wouldn't be able to break through his defense. Go. The black-clothed man didn't care too much. He directly activated the prince's order and controlled the Wolf Fang cavalry and the saber deputies to surround Yi Xian while he himself escaped. You want to leave? Stay here. Yi Xian was like a sharp knife that directly split the Wolf Fang cavalry apart and went straight for the black-clothed man. Damn it. Seeing that so many Wolf Fang cavalry couldn't stop Yi Xian, the black-clothed man's face sank to the bottom. He suddenly smelled a dangerous aura. Shio, shio, shio. Yi Xian moved extremely quickly. He slashed out more than 10 times in a second and blocked the black-clothed man's escape route. The black-clothed man had no choice but to turn around and allow Yi Xian to close the distance. The black-clothed man's speed was still considered fast. Otherwise, Yi Xian would have caught up to him. He treated his wounds, gripped his sword tightly, and suddenly turned back. He knew that he probably couldn't escape, so he wanted to cooperate with the Wolf Fang cavalry and the saber deputies to chase Yi Xian away. However, he underestimated Yi Xian's dragon luck. You want to fight to the death? Wolf Fang charge. Yi Xian sneered and directly stabbed with his sword. Break for me. The black-clothed man shouted and also slashed with his sword. Boom. The two true chis collided and a shockwave swept out. However, Yi Xian was still a level higher. The giant wolf head with a large amount of dragon luck bit into the black-clothed man's body. Eye of Illusion. Firmament Fissure. Xiao. A cold light flashed and the black-clothed man's other arm flew up. Now he didn't have the ability to break free from the giant wolf head, let alone escape. Looking at the black-clothed man who was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, Yi Xian quickly rushed over and picked up the prince token. When the prince token fell into Yi Xian's hands, the black-clothed man was already in despair. He knew that he was about to be eliminated. Thank you for your dragon luck. After absorbing the dragon luck in the prince token, Yi Xian directly crushed it. Wah! The black-clothed man turned into a ray of light and flew out of the secret realm. At the same time, Yi Xian also recognized him. This person was an expert under the first prince, but he was dressed in black. Because it was night, it was easier to ambush the enemy in black. Although it consumed a lot of dragon luck, the opponent's dragon luck was twice as much. It was a huge gain. Rumble. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly heard the commotion behind him. The Wolf Fang cavalry and the Long Saber deputy general were still charging over. Is it automatically attacking the nearest enemy? Yi Xian didn't care about anything else and directly charged into the enemy. In less than 10 seconds, the 200 over Wolf Fang cavalry and the two deputy generals with 90% of their bodies sealed were all destroyed by him. Not only that, he also discovered a secret. The Wolf Fang cavalry can't be reorganized? Chapter 789. The Wolf Fang cavalry can't be reorganized? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. However, it made sense. If they could be reorganized, there would be too many soldiers. However, Yi Xian also knew the 10,000 divine thoughts technique. He tried to control the Wolf Fang cavalry, but he couldn't do so. He couldn't absorb them into the devouring space, so he had no choice but to return. This time the first prince also lost. Not only did he lose 300 Wolf Fang cavalry and 2 deputy generals, but he also lost a 95% physique sealing expert. Soon Yi Xian returned to Resource Point 8 and waited patiently. Resource Point 8 was located in a cave in a canyon. The cave flashed with a blue light. When it was midnight, the blue light disappeared. At the same time, the dragon luck pillar appeared again. Yi Xian didn't say anything and absorbed the dragon luck. Then the platform shone with a blue light again. Occupation successful. Yi Xian, did you manage to occupy Resource Point 8? The sixth prince asked. Yes. Yi Xian replied. Also, I eliminated a 95% physique sealing expert under the first prince. There are also 300 Wolf Fang cavalry and 2 deputy generals. There was a pause on the other end. Then the sixth prince said in shock, That's great. Yi Xian, well done. From the start of the battle, Yi Xian had given the sixth prince many surprises. First, he occupied the seventh prince's 4th resource point and eliminated a 95% inscribed physique expert under the seventh prince. Now he eliminated another 95% inscribed physique expert under the first prince. This was unbelievable. Your Highness, I'm going to Resource Point 9 to meet up with Captain Yang. Yi Xian said and immediately left. Okay, be careful. Reminded the sixth prince again. Although resource points were important, Yi Xian was much more important than them in the current situation. Not long after, Yi Xian rushed from Resource Point 8 to Resource Point 9. Resource Point 9 was empty, so he quickly went to occupy it. Xianxia hurried over and the two of them met up. Yi Xian, Xianxia said after seeing Yi Xian. I can't believe you single-handedly took care of 295% body sealing experts. Let's hurry back. Yi Xian smiled. The two of them rushed toward their own city. Now the sixth prince had conquered a total of 7 resource points and obtained 3,500 Wolf Fang cavalrymen. In addition to the initial 1,500 Wolf Fang cavalry and the 1,000 Wolf Fang cavalry that the sixth prince had exchanged for, they now had a total of 6,000 Wolf Fang cavalry. When Yi Xian and Xianxia returned to the right checkpoint, they immediately called for a meeting. Now that all 10 resource points had been occupied, it was possible that someone would attack the city today. However, the sixth prince was still uncertain, so he decided to wait for a day. Guarding for a day did not mean that they would not go out. The sixth prince directly ordered Gu Jian to lead 1,000 Wolf Fang cavalry, 10 long blade deputy generals, and 1 golden armored general out of the city to hide. As for the left checkpoint, there was even less of a need to worry because there was a poisonous array there. There were also 3,000 soldiers there, so it would not be easy to break through. This checkpoint was very peaceful. Yi Xian stayed on the city walls and did not notice anything strange. The sixth prince did not send any news, which meant that the left checkpoint was also safe. However, just as dawn was about to break, Yi Xian suddenly scanned the area with his eye of revelation and found something strange. Someone's there. Yi Xian immediately said. Xianxia was shocked. He did not know how Yi Xian found out. He looked in the direction Yi Xian was looking but did not see anything. Captain Yang, I'll go out alone to take a look, Yi Xian said. Be careful. Although Xianxia was worried, Yi Xian also had the dragon-patterned golden armor and was probably stronger than him. Boom. The right checkpoint's gate suddenly cracked open. Yi Xian walked out and scanned the area with his eye of revelation. There was a person squatting 10,000 meters away from his 11 o'clock. It seemed to be someone from the seventh prince's side. Tsk. Is it a spy? Watch me clear you out of the secret realm. Yi Xian sneered and quickly sneaked over. In the secret realm, one's perception was greatly reduced. Although the other party hid his aura, Yi Xian could use his eye of revelation to locate him. When Yi Xian got closer, he realized that it was not him, but her. It's a woman? Yi Xian was surprised. His eye of revelation could see the internal environment of a person's body, so he could tell that the other party was a woman. Among the three factions besides the poison matriarch, the seventh prince had a black-robed woman. Moreover, this black-robed woman was the expert suspected to have reached 100% body seal. At this moment, the black-robed woman suddenly moved. You want to go back after spying? Yi Xian's eyes lit up and he quickly chased after her. At the same time, he took out the prince's order and informed the sixth prince, asking him to tell Xianxia to send a golden-armored general over. If the black-robed woman could be sent out of the secret realm, the seventh prince's side would not be a threat. After all, there were only 7 people left. Yi Xian immediately chased after her. The black-robed woman was very fast, so Yi Xian had to use his full strength. As a result, the other party discovered him. The black-robed woman was surprised. She guessed that Yi Xian was the same as her. He wanted to investigate and bumped into her. In that case, I'll deal with you first. The black-robed woman's eyes flashed. She suddenly took out a black longsword and turned it back. Firmament Fissure. Netherworld Spike. The two attacks enhanced by draconic luck collided, causing a huge shockwave. Now, even if Yi Xian did not inform the sixth prince, Xianxia would have brought people out. You are indeed from the ghost sect. Again. Yi Xian shouted and attacked madly. He had a lot of luck, which was enough for him to use. If he could obtain the luck of the black-robed woman, he would have profited greatly. Boom. 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 The two people's true energy collided, causing a huge commotion. Gu Jian, who was guarding outside the city, had received the sixth prince's orders. Now that he heard the commotion, he immediately brought a golden-armored general over. Boy, you are very strong. Now I will let you have a taste of this move. The black-robed woman snorted coldly. After thrusting out her sword, she threw out a punch. A purple fist shadow flew towards Yi Xian. Such power. Is this the heaven-shaking fist from the Heavenly Fist sect's high-grade legacy? Yi Xian's eyes widened. Fortunately, he had already memorized the trajectory of his opponent's true energy with the Eye of Revelation. Ding. Copy of Heaven-Shaking Fist successfully. Learn? Yes. Yi Xian did not hesitate and directly answered in his mind. Ding. Host has learned Heaven-Shaking Fist. The system notified. Quasi-Supreme Martial Arts were the transition between Void God Martial Arts and Supreme Martial Arts. Therefore, there was no proficiency level to speak of. Yi Xian directly learned Heaven-Shaking Fist and threw out a punch. Heaven-Shaking Fist. Chapter 790. The two purple fist shadows collided. Although there was a huge gap between their realms, Yi Xian still had the King of Fighters' bloodline and strength, so he was not much weaker than his opponent. When the two fist shadows dissipated, the black-robed woman was shocked. This was a martial art technique that she had obtained from a high-grade inheritance during the Battle of Draconic Luck. Why did Yi Xian know it too? However, she could not care less. Heavenly Fist puppets appear. The black-robed woman revealed another trump card. These were 2 puppets that she had obtained from the inheritance of the Heavenly Fist sect. Yi Xian suddenly became a 1 versus 3. I expected this. Yi Xian snorted in his heart. He had thought of this when he saw that his opponent was a woman. After all, the sixth prince had given him a piece of information. However, the Heavenly Fist sect restrained him because it was a fist technique that could injure him through the dragon-patterned golden armor. It was not a big deal to injure him, but he was afraid that the prince token would be accidentally broken and he would be eliminated. Therefore it was better to retreat for the time being. Kid, you must be the sixth prince's trump card. In that case I'll send you out first, the black-robed woman said with a smile. Then she and the two heavenly fist puppets attacked Yixian crazily. Yixian was beaten back bit by bit. However, from the corner of his eye, he discovered that his reinforcements had arrived. I'll help you, Gu Jian shouted, bringing a golden armored general with him as he charged over. The black-robed woman's expression changed when she heard that. Yixian alone was difficult enough to deal with. Now that he had a golden armored general and a 95% body seal expert, she was not a match for them. She immediately turned around and prepared to leave. Good chance. Yixian's eyes flashed. Forbidden Eye of Illusion. The black-robed woman trembled as she was hit by the illusion. However, to Yixian's surprise, the black-robed woman dispelled the Forbidden Eye of Illusion in an instant. How is this possible? How is her mental state so strong? Yixian was shocked. He wondered if the gap between their realms was too big. Since the Forbidden Eye of Illusion did not work, he would force her to stay. Firmament Fissure. Yixian frantically swung his sword, blocking the black-robed woman's path of retreat. Gu Jian had also arrived and attacked the black-robed woman. At the same time, under his control, he attacked the black-robed woman as well. The black-robed woman's face darkened. She knew that things weren't looking good. After thinking for a moment, she decided to use her trump card. Netherworld Escape. Immediately, the black-robed woman's speed skyrocketed. She immediately abandoned the two heavenly fist puppets and fled. Her speed was even faster than that of the golden armored general and Yixian. We can't catch up. Yixian raised his eyebrows and shouted at Gu Jian, restrain the two heavenly fist puppets. Lone Sword was stunned for a moment. He immediately controlled the golden armored general to block one of the celestial fist puppets while he personally blocked the other one. Yixian quickly rushed over and slapped the heavenly fist puppet on the top of its head. 10,000 Divine Thoughts Technique. Yixian's consciousness turned into thousands of clones and seeped into the heavenly fist puppet, forcibly erasing the black-robed woman's remnant consciousness. Now, the heavenly fist puppet was under his control. The heavenly fist puppet originally emitted the black-robed woman's aura, but now it was Yixian's. Just as he was about to ask, he saw Yixian rush to the other heavenly fist puppet and forcibly take control of it again. Sensing that the two heavenly fist puppets were no longer under her control, the black-robed woman's face turned ashen as she shouted, "Brat, I will make you pay for this." This time she really suffered a double loss. Not only did she consume some draconic luck, but she also lost two heavenly fist puppets that were at 95% sealed. What a blunder. You're lucky to have left quickly. Otherwise, I would have eliminated you. Yixian coldly snorted. He just happened to see the black-robed woman leave his line of sight. It was impossible to catch up with her. At this moment, Lone Sword asked in shock, "You subdued the two heavenly fist puppets?" "Yes." Yixian nodded. Fortunately, the black-robed woman had just received the heavenly fist sex inheritance, so she couldn't control the two heavenly fist puppets very well. Thus, he forcibly used the 10,000 Divine Thoughts technique to erase the remnant consciousness. Amazing, Lone Sword said in admiration. At this moment, Xianxia also came over with a golden armored general and asked, "Yixian, are you all right?" "I'm fine. That person is the black-robed woman under the 7th prince. I've checked her strength. She's indeed at body seal 100%. Yixian shook his head and said, "As expected, she's at body seal 100%. Fortunately, they don't have the dragon-patterned golden armor. Otherwise, it would be difficult to deal with them." Xianxia heaved a sigh of relief. He glanced at the two dumbstruck heavenly fist puppets and sighed inwardly that Yixian was really not an ordinary person. Yixian's strength was already very strong. Now that he had two heavenly fist puppets that he could store in his interspatial ring, he could do whatever he wanted here. Then Yixian and Xianxia returned to the city, while Lone Sword continued to wait outside the city with a golden armored general. After finding out about Yixian's gains, the 6th prince was overjoyed. However, he was in the middle of a great battle, so he couldn't leave the main city. Otherwise, he would definitely come over and give Yixian a big hug. Originally, he didn't have much confidence, but after this day, his confidence was bursting. The reason for this was because Yixian had made several great contributions. This time, he might be able to suppress the two princes and become the crown prince. At this moment, outside the secret realm, a group of ministers watched the battle and were in an uproar. The 6th prince really has good foresight. This kid is only at body seal 80%, but he can actually fight against a body seal 100% expert. His future is limitless. Not only that, he even took in the 2 heavenly fist puppets. Did he cultivate the 10,000 divine thoughts technique? Previously, he obtained the Wolf Fang General's inheritance, so it's not surprising that he has the 10,000 divine thoughts technique. It's amazing that he learned it in such a short time. The ministers were full of praise for Yi Xian. Sitting on the dragon throne, the flaming Sun Emperor narrowed his eyes. He seemed to be very optimistic about Yi Xian. However, the ministers outside could see that there were already 2 large armies gathering and advancing towards the 6th prince. The sky was starting to brighten. Today was the 2nd day after the war started. No one knew if the 7th prince and the eldest prince would make a big move. Yi Xian, be careful. I have a feeling that something big is going to happen today. The 6th prince's voice came from the prince's command medallion. Yi Xian, who was standing on the city wall, used the Eye of Revelation to scan the area. When he heard this, he replied, yes. The 6th prince's main purpose was to guard against the 7th prince. That was why he was assigned to guard the checkpoint on the right. At midnight yesterday they had taken over 3 resource points. After the war started they took over 4 more. That was why they had an extra 500 soldiers. Don't underestimate these 500 soldiers. If there was no one guarding the checkpoint, these 500 soldiers would be enough to charge in. Chapter 791. Yi Xian, this is bad. The left checkpoint is under attack. There are at least 5,000 soldiers. Go and help them. The 6th prince exclaimed. What? Yi Xian was shocked. There were 5,000 soldiers? When the battle started, each side had a starting force of 1,500. Even if the 1st prince had taken over 6 resource points, he would only have 4,500 soldiers in total. However, there were now 5,000 soldiers. This meant that the 1st prince had used his dragon luck to exchange for a large number of soldiers. After all, they still had to defend their base. I'll go now. Yi Xian immediately replied. However, the next moment, his Eye of Revelation saw something. He immediately opened his eyes wide and shouted to the 6th prince, 6th prince, there are also a large number of Wolf Fang cavalry at the right checkpoint. What? How many? The 6th prince asked in shock. Yi Xian paused for a few seconds and then reported, at least 4,000. Damn it, the 1st prince and the 7th prince are working together to eliminate me first. The 6th prince immediately reacted. The left checkpoint was under attack by 5,000 soldiers, while the right checkpoint was under attack by 4,000 soldiers. Although both checkpoints had 3,000 soldiers, they were under attack at the same time. 6th prince, should we all retreat to the main city? Xianxia took out the 6th prince's token and asked. The 6th prince thought for a moment and said, no, if we lose the 2 checkpoints, the 1st prince and the 7th prince can attack at the same time. At that time, all the resource points will be taken. We won't have any chance of winning. Xianxia, immediately lead a team to the left checkpoint. I will immediately exchange for some Wolf Fang cavalry to support them. Yes. Xianxia did not say anything else and left. 6th prince, there are also 4,000 soldiers here. Should we go out and fight? Yi Xian asked. I'll give you command of the right checkpoint. You take over. The 6th prince's voice came from the 6th prince's token. Now Yi Xian was the overall commander of the right checkpoint. It was up to Yi Xian to decide whether to fight or defend. Now that Xianxia had left, Gu Jian was still waiting outside the city. Only he and Chief Zhuo were left on the city walls. They were just enough to control the 2 arrow towers. Attacking the city was not that easy. The reason why the 7th prince's team had not attacked yet was because they were afraid of the 2 arrow towers. Yi Xian, what do we do now? Chief Zhuo asked with a frown. Chief Steward Zhuo, you guard the arrow tower. If they attack, use the arrow tower to attack. I'll go out of the city and meet up with Lone Sword. Then we'll go and spy on the enemy. Yi Xian replied. There were 4,000 soldiers here representing the 7th prince. Because each prince could only control 2 divisions, there were only 1,000 or so soldiers. Then be careful. Chief Steward Zhuo reminded. Yi Xian nodded silently. He went down the city wall and left through a secret passage. He first obtained it with Gu Jian, then went alone to spy on the military situation. I wonder how many golden armored generals the 7th prince has sent over. Yi Xian guessed as he carefully sneaked over. The golden armored general was comparable to a physique-sealing realm master. Moreover, it was indestructible. It was almost invincible in the hidden territory. At first, the 6th prince had 3 golden armored generals. Then he used his draconic luck to exchange for 2 more. Unfortunately, Xianxia left with 2 divisions and 1 golden armored general. The other golden armored general was with lone sword, so there were no more golden armored generals on the right side of the checkpoint. There are too many soldiers. It's an advantage for me. Why don't I go and harass them first? Yi Xian planned. Of course, this was assuming that the enemy did not have a large number of experts. He snuck over and scanned with his eye of revelation. Sure enough, there were 4 living people. That black-robed woman is here too. The other 3 don't look strong. They're at most 90% physique sealing realm masters. However, they brought 3 golden armored generals. Are they here for revenge? Yi Xian's heart trembled. The black-robed woman was at physique sealing realm. The 3 golden armored generals were also at physique sealing realm. There's no other way. I can only try. Yi Xian was also helpless. Even if the 6th prince exchanged for a large number of soldiers, it would still take some time for them to arrive. It would be difficult to defend for more than an hour. If the 4,000 soldiers launched an all-out attack, it would take more than half an hour. Therefore, Yi Xian could only set an example and try to harass the enemy. Kill. Yi Xian immediately drew his Wolf Fang sword. Draconic Fortune of the Universe. Firmament Fissure. His attack, enhanced by Draconic Luck, pierced through the air and instantly cut the 80% physique sealing realm masters in half. In just a second, Yi Xian destroyed more than 10 Wolf Fang cavalry soldiers. What? The black-robed woman, who was waiting for the order to attack, was shocked. She immediately understood that the enemy had sent someone to harass them. Find them. The black-robed woman shouted. At the same time, she flew out and controlled a golden armored general to rush in the direction of the commotion. Perception was greatly reduced in the secret realm. Therefore, the black-robed woman could not accurately pinpoint Yi Xian's location. She could only rely on the direction of her attack. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was harassing them without any rules. His plan was to kill as many people as he could. That black-robed woman is here. Good heavenly fist puppets. Yi Xian released 2 heavenly fist puppets that he had just subdued. In fact, he was very reluctant to do so, but this time he had no choice but to sacrifice them. The 2 heavenly fist puppets directly charged into the Wolf Fang cavalry army. Meanwhile, Yi Xian quietly left. His target was not the black-robed woman, but the other 3 controllers. As long as one of them was sent out of the secret realm, the army of 4,000 would be reduced to 3,000. The other 1,000 could only watch as no one controlled them. As Yi Xian ran, he used his insightful eye to observe. As expected, the black-robed woman was attracted. A physique sealing realm master has left. The other 3 don't look strong. One of them is my old friend Xianxia. Yi Xian's eyes flickered. In the first round of the Battle of Draconic Luck, Xianxia was crippled by him and then kicked out of the secret realm. After that, Xianxia received treatment and recovered from his injuries. At the same time, he also broke through to 90% physique sealing realm. However, he was still vulnerable in front of Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian quietly sneaked over. He glanced at the black-robed woman in the distance and then suddenly attacked. Draconic Luck. Firmament Splitter. Several powerful attacks pierced through the air. Xianxia was startled. By the time he reacted, the attacks were already in front of him. Now that Yi Xian was at 80% physique sealing realm and had a large amount of Draconic Luck, even if Xianxia broke through to 90% physique sealing realm, he was still not his match. Fortunately, there were 2 long saber generals in front of Xianxia who were at 90% physique sealing realm. After Yi Xian's attack split the 2 long saber generals in half, its power was less than half when it reached Xianxia. Chapter 792. Bam. Although the attack was less than half done, it still caused a lot of trouble for Xianxia. His hands were numb from the impact. At the same time, he recognized the attack. However, he did not associate the person who killed his grandson with the person who attacked him. After all, the person who killed his grandson was only at 45% physique sealing level. He was as weak as an ant. Whoosh whoosh. Xianxia was sent flying, but he quickly controlled one of the golden armored generals to rush towards Yi Xian. What a pity that I didn't eliminate him directly. Yi Xian felt a little helpless. He quickly moved away from the spot. This time, the 7th prince's team brought 4 golden armored generals. If he was surrounded, he would be in danger. Hence, he had to resort to guerrilla warfare. At the same time, the moment Xianxia stabilized himself, a voice came from his prince token. Attack. The voice belonged to the 7th prince. He gave the order to attack the city at the same time to the black-robed woman and the others. Coincidentally, Yi Xian also heard it. They're attacking? He raised an eyebrow and quickly launched an attack. Even if he could not stop the entire army, he had to reduce some of them. The black-robed woman, who was about to cause trouble for the two heavenly fist puppets, stopped in her tracks when she heard the order. She immediately controlled the army to advance. However, even if she did not receive the order, she knew that she had been lured away. More than 3,000 Wolf Fang cavalry charged madly towards the right checkpoint. Sixth Prince, the right checkpoint is attacking. Yi Xian quickly took out his prince token and reported. All right. The sixth prince replied. Yi Xian's prince token could not be used by others. It had to go through the sixth prince. The sixth prince received the news and immediately notified Gu Jian and Chief Steward Zhua. A huge battle broke out. At this moment, Yi Xian had already avoided the army. He circled around and attacked from the back. His attacks were very fierce. Every time he attacked, he would cut several Wolf Fang cavalry in half. The Wolf Fang cavalry in the secret realm could not be reassembled. One killed meant one less. Chief Steward Xia, find that kid. I'll attack the city. The black-robed woman shouted. All right. Xia Yuni replied. He also understood that the people who came to disturb them this time were very powerful, so he deliberately left behind a golden armored general and two long-blade deputy generals. However, in order to be safe, Yi Xian had already made a detour to the two heavenly fist puppets. He immediately put them away and then quickly concealed himself. Damn it, that brat ran away. This was Xia Yuni's first thought, but he didn't care so much. He directly led the golden armored general and the Wolf Fang cavalry to charge forward. Yi Xian was only here to harass them. There was no need for him to be so calculative. Attacking the city was more important. As long as they broke through a checkpoint, the seventh prince would be able to move freely. Ignoring me and going to attack the city? Yi Xian's eyes flashed. The defensive power of the formation on the city gate was not bad. With the addition of Chief Zhua's arrow tower, they should be able to hold on for a while. What he needed to do now was to clear the people out. At that moment, he stealthily approached Xia Yuni, who was lagging behind, and summoned the two heavenly fist puppets again. Kill. Yi Xian and the two puppets attacked from the rear. Ka, ka, ka. A series of crisp sounds rang out. These were the sounds of the Wolf Fang cavalry being cut in half by Yi Xian. Behind. Xia Yuni had also guessed that Yi Xian would attack from the rear, so he had the golden armored general follow behind him while he hid behind the Wolf Fang cavalry. The black-robed woman and the other three golden armored generals were already charging towards the right checkpoint. If they worked together, who knew how long the city gate would last? Thus, Yi Xian had to be dealt with quickly. Old man, you gave me a good beating that day. Now, I'm going to collect some interest. Yi Xian controlled the two heavenly fist puppets and quickly broke through. His speed was so fast that Xia Yuni was stunned. Stop them. Xia Yuni controlled the golden armored general to meet them. However, Yi Xian immediately controlled the two heavenly fist puppets to block them, while he himself attacked Xia Yuni. A mere 90% sealed physique. Get out of here. Yi Xian shouted. A sword beam and a purple fist shadow blasted towards Xia Yuni at almost the same time. Xia Yuni's expression was gloomy. He did not have the ability to block these two attacks. Boom. The sword beam sent him flying, while the purple fist shadow smashed right in front of him. The prince's token shattered and he was sent flying out of the mystic realm. At this moment he also saw the Wolf Fang sword in Yi Xian's hand and confirmed Yi Xian's identity. There were still hundreds of Wolf Fang cavalry around Xia Yuni, but without the prince's token's control, they would only attack the nearest person. Go. Yi Xian did not care too much. He directly sent the defenseless golden armored general flying, then recalled the heavenly fist puppets and quickly disappeared into the forest. The army of 4,000 was now down to 3,000. At the same time, the black-robed woman and two others had already rushed to the city gate, but Gu Jian swept out before them and intercepted them, preventing them from attacking the city gate. On the city wall, Chief Steward Zhua looked at the densely packed figures under his command and controlled the arrow tower to attack crazily. Pooh! Pooh! The arrow tower swept wildly, shooting out dozens of arrows with extremely strong penetrative power in 1 second. These arrows could easily pierce through the armor of the Wolf Fang cavalry. Seeing the Wolf Fang cavalry crumble one by one, the black-robed woman was shocked. She did not expect the arrow tower to be so powerful. Could probably take out at least 10 Wolf Fang cavalry in 1 second. You guys, give me control of the golden armored general. I will go and blast open the city gate. The black-robed woman shouted. At this moment there were still 3 golden armored generals. Including the black-robed woman, there were 400% sealed physique masters. Although the city gate's array was powerful, under the joint attack of 400% sealed physique masters, it would probably be broken in less than 5 seconds. Not good. Hearing this, Yi Xian's face fell. He immediately informed the sixth prince to let Gu Jian enter through the secret passage and take control of the arrow tower. There were a total of 2 city gates, so they had about 10 to 15 seconds to open the gates. Before that, Yi Xian had to clear out the Wolf Fang cavalry as quickly as possible. Found him, he's over there. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He immediately released 2 heavenly fist puppets. His target this time was still a person who had 90% sealed physique. This person's golden armored general had been taken away by the black-robed woman, so his defense was too weak. Yi Xian directly rushed in like a sharp knife. Leave the item and scram. Facing the murderous god Yi Xian, this person did not have the ability to change hands. He had his arm chopped off and the prince's token shattered. He turned into a ray of light and flew out of the secret realm. However, his mission had been completed. Even if he was chased out, the Wolf Fang cavalry would take the initiative to attack the surrounding enemies. Chapter 793. Yi Xian quickly took the interspatial ring. Unfortunately, the items in the interspatial ring could not help him break through. If that's the case, that's all I can do. In this situation, Yi Xian had only one option, and that was to break through. Only by breaking through would he be able to face 4 body seal experts by himself. Right now, other than the extra dragon pattern golden armor, his most precious things were the 2 heavenly fist puppets. Although the dragon pattern golden armor was precious, he had no other choice. He immediately devoured the dragon pattern golden armor. Not enough. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He quickly rushed over and devoured the 2 sky fist puppets as well. Ding. The host has broken through. Currently at 85% body seal. His realm had increased again. Yi Xian was able to fight the black-robed woman to a draw. Now that he had broken through, it should be no problem for him to defeat the black-robed woman. Haha, don't even think about attacking the city. Yi Xian roared, and the Wolf Fang cavalry that were pouncing on him were sent flying. Complete annihilation. Yi Xian was no longer afraid of anyone. He charged directly at the black-robed woman. What? The black-robed woman, who was controlling the 3 golden armored generals to charge forward, suddenly felt something. She turned her head to look and discovered that Yi Xian was charging straight towards her. The Wolf Fang cavalry and the deputy general that were blocking the way were all easily dealt with by Yi Xian. However, the black-robed woman had already broken through the encirclement and reached the city gates. Her mission this time was to break through the checkpoint. As long as she could break through this checkpoint, it would be fine even if all the Wolf Fang cavalry were killed. However, now that Yi Xian had broken through, it would not be so easy to break through the checkpoint. Draconic Fortune. Firmament Fissure. Yi Xian launched an attack at the black-robed woman. Nether Spike. The black-robed woman turned around and stabbed with her sword. Bang. The 2 chi collided, and the shockwave disintegrated the Wolf Fang cavalry around them. My Eye of Illusion was useless against you back then. Now that I've broken through, have a taste of it. Yi Xian glared at him. The Eye of Illusion could be activated as long as one could see the other party's eyes. In the next moment, the black-robed woman's body trembled slightly. Although she had been on guard previously, she did not know how Yi Xian had attacked her, so she was hit again. Alright, Wolf Fang charge. Yi Xian thrust out his sword, and a giant wolf head pounced over, biting the black-robed woman. The interspatial ring is mine. Yi Xian hurriedly rushed over. Facing such a vicious woman, he would not show mercy. He immediately slashed out with his sword and chopped off the black-robed woman's wrist. At the same time, the 3 golden armored generals surrounded him and began to attack him. The golden armored generals were comparable to physique-sealing realm masters, but Yi Xian also had the dragon-patterned golden armor, so the 3 golden armored generals were no threat to him. 4 directions extermination, get lost. Yi Xian suddenly unleashed a blast of energy around him, forcing the 3 golden armored generals to take 2 steps back. Then he thrust his sword at the black-robed woman. The Eye of Revelation could not only see the environment in the black-robed woman's body, but also detect objects with spiritual energy, such as the prince's token. At the same time, when Yi Xian thrust his sword, the black-robed woman came to her senses. She looked at the sword and immediately used her trump card. Nether Walk. The black-robed woman dodged the attack and immediately ran away while sticking close to the wall. This move again? Yi Xian's eyes widened. This martial art was too strange. The black-robed woman used this move to escape the last time. However, he had learned his lesson this time. He directly used the Eye of Revelation and the devouring system to copy the information into the devouring system. Ding. Copy of Nether Walk successfully. Learn. Yes. Yi Xian replied. Now that he had this martial art, it would not be a problem for him to catch up with the black-robed woman. However, just as he was about to give chase, he thought of a problem. If he left, the 3 golden armored generals would definitely break into the city. When that happened, the 3 golden armored generals would charge into the main hall of the checkpoint and destroy the dragon pillar. Then the gate of the checkpoint would not be able to be closed. At the same time, the 7th prince would be able to leave the main city and move freely. The 1st prince, the 6th prince, the 7th prince, and even the 4th prince who did not make it into the top 3 had already achieved 100% physique ceiling. They were very powerful and it would be troublesome if they were released so easily. After all, the 6th prince was the one who broke into the checkpoint, not the 7th prince. I'll let you go this time. Yi Xian finally decided to guard the checkpoint and not chase after the black-robed woman. He quickly took off the black-robed woman's interspatial ring and checked it. The Saintess of the Nether sect? Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. No wonder the 7th prince had so many elites supporting him. It turned out that he had a Saintess with him. However, if the Saintess was already at 100% physique ceiling, then the sect leader should be at least at 100% physique ceiling as well. He just did not know where the sect leader of the ghost cult was. Yi Xian did not care too much. He looked at the 2 armies fighting outside and quickly rushed out. The golden armored generals may be powerful, but they are not indestructible. Yi Xian thought to himself. If the golden armored generals were indestructible, then why would they need the Wolf Fang cavalry to attack the city? They could just use their draconic luck to exchange for the golden armored generals. Why would they need so many soldiers? Firmament Fissure. Skyquake Fist. Nether Spike. Yi Xian grabbed a golden armored general and pressed it against the city wall, attacking it madly. The other 2 golden armored generals were also attacking him, but he took their attacks head-on. In 3 seconds, the golden armored general endured countless attacks. After 3 seconds it finally collapsed. Then Yi Xian spent some time dismantling the other 2 golden armored generals. Then he charged into the enemy army. Yi Xian, how is the checkpoint on the right? The 6th prince's voice sounded. It's defended. The 7th prince lost 3 golden armored generals. Yi Xian replied. At this point he had already dismantled 3 golden armored generals. The 4th golden armored general was still in the forest tens of thousands of meters away. Because there were no enemies, they just stood there. What? The 6th prince was shocked again. Yi Xian actually dismantled 3 golden armored generals. This was too amazing. The 6th prince had used his draconic luck to exchange for the golden armored generals. The amount of draconic luck he used to exchange for the golden armored generals had made his heart ache for a long time. He did not expect that the golden armored generals could only be dismantled in front of Yi Xian. Your Highness, I suggest that we immediately attack the 7th prince. Yi Xian hurriedly said. All right. You will still be in command of the checkpoint on the right. The 6th prince immediately agreed. Understood. Yi Xian replied and continued to attack the Wolf Fang cavalry. At this moment, his eye of revelation suddenly swept across a person. It was the last person on the 7th prince's side. Chapter 794. You want to run? Stay. Yi Xian controlled his only golden armored general and charged forward. Not long after, his opponent turned into a ray of light and flew out of the secret realm. The 7th prince's side had lost 1 person in the first round. When they entered the 3rd round, there were only 9 people left. Then, when Yi Xian took over the resource point, there were only 8 people left. Now, other than the black-robed woman, the other 3 were all cleared out of the secret realm. Therefore, the 7th prince's side only had 4 people left. This was a good opportunity for a counterattack. Without a leader, the Wolf Fang cavalry was like a sheet of loose sand. In less than a minute, they were completely annihilated by Yi Xian. Speaking of which, it was strange that the black-robed woman did not take the golden armored general with her. She was probably scared out of her wits and ran with all her might. In this way Yi Xian benefited from it. After Yi Xian destroyed the 4th golden armored general, all of the troops were annihilated. As for the army that Gu Jian was hiding in the forest, they also suffered heavy losses. There were less than 200 of them left. His Highness the 6th Prince has already gone all out to reinforce the left side. Manager Zhuo, Gu Jian, you two defend the city. I will lead 1,000 soldiers to attack the 7th Prince. Yi Xian said to Manager Zhuo and Gu Jian. Okay. Gu Jian and Manager Zhuo nodded. By now they had witnessed Yi Xian's strength. Even if Yi Xian was alone, he could take down one of the checkpoints. After Yi Xian destroyed the 4th golden armored general, all of the troops were annihilated. As for the army that Gu Jian was hiding in the forest, they also suffered heavy losses. There were less than 200 of them left. His Highness the Sixth Prince has already gone all out to reinforce the left side. Manager Zhuo, Gu Jian, you two defend the city. I will attack the city alone. Yi Xian said to Manager Zhuo and Gu Jian. Okay. Gu Jian and Manager Zhuo nodded. By now they had witnessed Yi Xian's strength. Even if Yi Xian was alone, he could take down one of the checkpoints. Yi Xian immediately left. This time, the seventh prince had lost 4,000 soldiers and 3 members. It was a great loss. This was a good opportunity to beat the dog while it was down. With Yi Xian's current realm, he would probably be able to break through the city gate in 10 seconds. Then he would charge into the main palace and destroy the dragon pillar. After leaving the right checkpoint, he used the netherworld escape that he had just learned and rushed toward the seventh prince's main city. The nether escape was a quasi-supreme martial art that focused one's true chi on the feet. Although it was impossible to attack while running, it was very good for running. Yi Xian single-handedly led the entire battle. Not only did he annihilate 4,000 soldiers, but he also destroyed the golden armored generals. He was a monster. A monster, a monster. Although the golden armored generals are not controlled by anyone, it is not so easy to destroy them. He actually destroyed 4 golden armored generals. I'm afraid that only the 3 princes can fight against him now. Looking at his route, it seems like he's going to the 7th prince's territory. Is he planning to attack the 7th prince? He's really powerful. He single-handedly stopped 4,000 Wolf Fang cavalry. Now that he's going to attack the city alone, I feel like the other 2 gatekeepers are useless. The 7th prince and the eldest prince teamed up to eliminate the 6th prince, but they didn't expect Yi Xian to hold on to one of the checkpoints. I'm afraid the 6th prince won't win. The ministers continued to discuss. However, even the emperor didn't know when the 7th prince and the eldest prince had teamed up. Could it be that they had discussed this before entering the secret territory? 6th prince, how's the checkpoint on the left? On the way to the 7th prince's territory, Yi Xian took out the prince medallion and asked. It's not good. The 6th prince said, but in the next moment he exclaimed, not good, the gate on the left has been breached. What? Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. If the left gate was breached, then things would be troublesome. The eldest prince's army could directly charge into the main hall of the checkpoint and absorb the dragon luck on the soaring dragon pillar. That way the gate wouldn't be able to be closed and the eldest prince would be able to move freely. After receiving the news from the poison matriarch, the 6th prince immediately ordered the poison matriarch to absorb the dragon luck on the soaring dragon pillar and bring everyone back to the main city. The left checkpoint couldn't be taken anymore. With one of his front teeth broken, the eldest prince's army could directly charge into the main city. Not only that, but the eldest prince also ordered Xianxia to head to the main city to guard it because the eldest prince was going to personally lead the battle. 6th prince, should I return? Yi Xian hurriedly asked. No need. Once the poison matriarch destroys the soaring dragon pillar, I will be able to leave the main city. At that time I will teach these people a lesson. The 6th prince said angrily. The one that had been broken through was the first prince, and the one who had broken through this barrier was the first prince. Thus both he and the first prince could move freely. However, the eldest prince was still far away in his main city, so the 6th prince was waiting for the poison matriarch. As long as the soaring dragon pillar was destroyed, he would immediately head to the left checkpoint and join the battle. 6th prince, if I break through one of the 7th prince's checkpoints, the 7th prince will be able to move freely. At that time he will join forces with the eldest prince. Won't our main city be in danger? Yi Xian asked. No, they don't have many experts left. Given your strength, if you can breach the checkpoint, then you have the ability to breach the main city. Once the checkpoint is breached, he will be able to move freely, but he won't dare to leave the main city. The 6th prince replied. Since that's the case, I will attack the city at full speed. Yi Xian couldn't care less and headed straight for the 7th prince's territory. With his strength, only the 3 princes would be able to stop him in the entire area of the siege battle. However, the 7th prince's attack on the right checkpoint failed, so he couldn't move freely. Hence, Yi Xian could at least take down one checkpoint. At the same time at the left checkpoint. Boom. With a loud sound, the soaring dragon pillar on the left checkpoint of the 6th prince's camp was destroyed by the poison matriarch. Then, the poison matriarch led her men and the golden armored general to escape, leaving the 3,000 Wolf Fang cavalrymen behind to block the enemy's advance. 6th prince, you can move freely now. The moment the soaring dragon pillar collapsed, the 6th prince heard a voice. It was Eunuch Wu's voice. At that moment he directly charged out of the main city and charged towards the left checkpoint. His speed was much faster than Yi Xian's, who was currently using the netherworld escape. This was an existence that was almost invincible amongst half-step sovereigns.